I'm calling the April 15th City Council meeting to order. That's a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Fruin?
Here.
Councilmember Mohan?
Here.
Councilmember Wong?
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Chow?
Here. And do we have a closed session report?
There's nothing to report today, thank you.
Thank you. Today we have a presentation from the fire department. Let's welcome the Santa Clara County Fire Assistant Chief, Hector Estrada. And for this presentation, we won't take public comments. Council members can ask short questions limited to the zone map as presented. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I want to thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, and everyone in Chambers. I'm glad to have the opportunity to come here and shed a little light on the LRA hazard severity zone maps. There's a lot of information that I think is unknown, and then there's some other information that it would be very useful for people to have so that it can create a baseline, so that they can start doing a little bit more research, have a better understanding, and know what to expect. And during this time, also, I'd like to try to make sure that the City Council knows what is expected and what next steps would be, in addition to the citizens. And however it is that they're impacted is a really important component of this. So if I can, for all of those different stakeholders, be able to provide some information, I would be hopefully successful in doing that. And then also trying to provide some clarity on what LRA is, what fire hazard severity zones are. I know that the science and methodology is always an important thing. We have a demographic here in Cupertino that is well-informed, well-educated, and very curious. So giving them an opportunity to do their own research is a very important piece of this, and hopefully boost confidence. In addition to that, I'd like to try to provide clarity on where this applies. So what it is, what it means, what it doesn't mean, those types of things. So I'd be very happy to be able to walk away with having achieved some of that, if not all. So first I'm just going to start with the fire hazard severity zones in LRA, and it's a bit jargony, so I'm going to put some meaning to some of the words in the verbiage that's being used. So the first thing is what is SRA and what is LRA? The points of clarification for that. The LRA, for those who don't know, is the local responsibility areas. So that includes incorporated cities, urban areas, agricultural, and there are a few other designations that get, basically, if there's a local government that's responsible for the emergency response, fire prevention, wildfire responsibilities, and they're financially responsible for those components as well, that's considered LRA. And the SRA is the state responsibility areas. The state has financial responsibility while in fire protection and prevention responsibilities for those. That's a CAL FIRE. So if you see CAL FIRE responding, that's usually an SRA. So if we go west into the Santa Cruz Mountains, you're going to be seeing LRA or SRA abutting against LRA. The fire hazard severity zones, a bit of a tongue twister, but when it comes down to it, these are designated areas that have, by the state fire marshal, been assigned a designation that's based on the severity of the expected fire behavior that should prevail in those areas, and that's based on conditions. So with that, things that are done are they're broken up into three different areas. There's moderate, high, and very high severity zones, and they're all based on fuel loading, slope, fire weather, other relevant factors including areas where the winds have been identified by the Office of the State Fire Marshal as having a major cause for wildfire spread. And we see that in the wind-driven events. And those are usually the feign winds that you see like in the Diablos or the Santa Ana winds. Next, this image is not meant to shock or surprise you. What it is this is an illustration of what potentially could be the outcome for a property if some of the things that are called for in these fire protection measures that are triggered when you're in the LRA or SRA fire hazard severity zones, because they do have connections to building standards and some of the mitigations that are included. So this is actually an example of a home that was successful in being resistant to embers and did resist those embers intrusion and that heat insult that comes with the wildfire. And I am aware that we have two types of fires. We have the wild and then we have the conflagrations. So with that, the fire hazard severity zone maps are not new. They're a tool in recognizing the potential hazard that exists. And I'll give you a brief history of that, and I'll go through this as quickly as possible. So in 1980, November of 1980 was the Panorama Fire. That was in San Bernardino County. And that burned 28,800 acres, destroying 325 structures, and unfortunately there were 4 fatalities. The reason I tell you that, the result of that fire 1 year later was California Public Resource Code 4201 through 4204. And that mandated CAL FIRE to develop fire hazard severity zone maps in the SRA, the state responsibility areas. So this was a direct result of that fire loss and that hazard that existed in those areas. The first map was actually created in 1985, so it took a few years for it to actually be developed. They had to come up with the methodology and all the other processes in order to try to
Excuse me, should we see a map on the slide now, or because we still see the...
No, ma'am. This map is, I'm just going through the outline. You'll see maps in a little bit.
Okay.
And then in 1992, there was AB 38, after the Oakland Hills fire that burned 1,600 acres and destroyed nearly 3,000 structures, and it claimed 25 lives. So that's what that's the fire we call the Oakland Hills. And when that happened, CAL FIRE was ordered to identify the very high fire severity zones in the LRA. So now you have the requirement in the SRA and the LRA to identify very high fire severity zones. And in 2007 is actually the year or base map that we have here adopted in Cupertino. And that's why 2007 is relevant. And with that, CAL FIRE finalized statewide fire modeling, and the adopted CAL FIRE maps having 3 zones were created, and moderate, high, and very high. And like I said, this is where Cupertino's current map exists. So you have an area that is in the existing map much smaller than the 2025 map. That was the result of the 2007 maps. And 2011, using that SRA modeling, the CAL FIRE completed the recommended very high hazard severity zone mapping in the LRA for 38 counties and 200 cities. So progress started being made by 2011 to get the areas in the LRA designated. In 2020, we had CZU lightning event, and that complex fire was just on the other side of the Santa Cruz Mountains, so it's a very relevant fire for us, and it burned over 86,000 acres, 1,450 structures were lost. That resulted in 2021 AB 642 and SB 63, which required CAL FIRE to identify the moderate, high, and very high. The reason this is relevant is that now the identification of all 3 zones, which is currently where we are, was created. And with AB 211, in 2022, that's where the mandate for these to be locally adopted is. That puts us where we are today. I wanted to make sure that we had a clear understanding of how this came up, because one of the things that I heard in the feedback that was coming through the portal was that people were very surprised by seeing such a stark change or not expecting such a change, and that's one of the things I do plan on addressing tonight. So I realized that it did feel like a very big and unexpected change, and the hazard severity zone maps, really the point is they've been evolving since the 80s. It was easy to lose focus on how they were evolving because it did take a very long time, but there was an incident and then a reaction that came through that created a mandate for fire service to actually do this work. Next, the rollout timeline. So the maps were released in February of this year. We were the second section in California, and it was a phase 2. So what that required, and that was sent to the local governments, the maps had to be posted, and open comment or public comment had to be accomplished within 30 days. And Cupertino did meet that goal and that requirement, and we did start receiving input from citizens, and I actually did have an opportunity to review some of it, and some of that is actually incorporated into this presentation. And then next, the adoption deadline. So by the local government, the adoption has to take place within 120 days of that same date in February. So that puts us at June 24th, 2025. So staff reports, first readings, and the actual adoption process has to happen before the 24th of June. I'm going to talk a little bit about fire hazard versus fire risk. And the reason I'm doing that is that the maps are primarily focused on identifying fire hazard. The fire hazard is the condition that create the likelihood of an expected fire behavior event, and it's based on a 30 to 50 year window without considering any kind of mitigation measures. And so what that is identifying where the potential of a significant fire event can actually, if it took place, could develop. It's looking at the topography, it's looking at fuel, it's looking at a number of other items, and it's creating something that is intended to be very static and reliable. It does not take into consideration the items that basically are defined and aligned with risk. The insurance companies will track to those types of things that include risk, and those are the things that are somewhat controllable, and those would be the mitigation. So the potential damage that a fire can do under the existing conditions, and they do account for the mitigations. So if you have this level of risk, it can be brought down a little bit by home hardening, by defensible space, by a firewise community. Things like that can actually tick away at some of that intended or that risk that is being recognized in the fire hazard severity zone maps. And the map development. So these maps that were just delivered to us were completed in December, and they contained 450 jurisdictions that were comprised of all 3 zones, so moderate, high, and very high. They were developed and they contain the statewide LRA data. So those maps essentially would have the new methodology and everything else that has evolved from that point, or from the time that they've started. And they are now much more comprehensive than they had been in the past. So this is actually the slide that I think starts to be the important one. With that framework, an understanding, and what I can do is I can make observations of the maps. On the left, you see our current map. So the current map is based on the 2007-2008 adopted map. The requirement back then was that you only had very high fire severity zone that was required to be actually adopted into ordinance. So that is a subset. It is represented by the crosshatched dark area that you see down at the on actually both maps. The 2025 map is the one on the right. So when we saw this map, we had the same reaction you did, and we wondered, how did this happen? Which is what prompted the investigation of the base map for 2007. So that, once again, the 2007 map was created, but it only had the mandate that the very high be adopted. It did actually contain the moderate and high. Is that clear? Okay, great, because that's an important point. Now, these two side by side, what you have here on the left is the actual 3-zone data for the 2007 map. You see the footprint compared to the 2025 LRA map that was just delivered. The footprint is very similar. This is actually information that I would say that the orange, and it kind of looks washed out, so it looks yellowish, but on the left, 2007 draft map, the orange is high. So you did have an area in Cupertino that was represented as having higher fire risk, but it was not mandated to actually adopt it into ordinance as a very high, because it didn't meet that standard. The second thing, the area that was the area that is designated there can also be found in the Cupertino General Plan, Chapter 7, Health and Safety Element. It's identified as the urban wildland interface, and it's adjacent to the wildland urban interface area, and I think we refer to as the WUFIA. So the WUFIA is actually the red, and the adopted very high fire severity zone. The urban wildland interface actually represents that same footprint that you see on the left-hand side. So unfortunately, it's not possible to provide any concrete information on how the analysis was done. That's CAL FIRE's work, and we definitely have been getting in contact with them to try to find out a little bit more, and if we do receive more direct or explicit information, we can definitely provide that. One of the things that I do want to point out, though, is that there's been over 15 years that's passed. You had a high fire severity zone area that was not mandated to document, but it was captured in city in the city general plan and safety element. There was a change in vegetation for sure. There was improved technology to conduct the analysis and improved methodology that was adopted by the Fire Service or CAL FIRE and Board of Forestry. So the ability to actually be more precise was something that was realized, as well as there was an area of growth that you should expect from an area that has this kind of biomass to experience. So once again, these are observations, and they're based on the actual memorialized maps that we received. And once again, we would also be very happy to dig into it a little bit more and try to discover, because we do have another area within our jurisdiction that has a little bit of a similar problem. So we're very curious and interested to make sure those answers are received by you. And then finally, where we are right now. So part of Government Code 51179, the local agency shall not decrease the level of fire hazard severity zone. It may elect to increase the level of hazard severity zones within the local agency jurisdiction, but it must be adopted within 120 days. And I'll add two things to that. The first one is, if there was a desire to add a very high fire severity zone parcel or a group of parcels to the map, it would have to be justified. Significant justification is actually the standard that they use, and so we'd be working with CAL FIRE, so it can't just be done. But it must, just like fire code or any other kind of building or other code, it can be more restrictive, but it can't be less. So this is the other thing that is in place. So for any of those areas that we want to take a closer look at, there is the ability to actually do that, and there's some time to do that right now. So we're working with staff to make sure that any of those types of things that would be directed or part of the planning department's plan, but I'm not aware of any actual changes at the moment. We are dealing with what we were presented, and I think that's probably the most prudent way to move forward from this point on. And then there were a number of common concerns that came through. So I did have a chance, like I said, to go through what was coming through the portal. There were a number of areas where people were asking questions that I think they should be, there should be an information effort or an education effort that allows people to have a clear understanding of why the maps were created. I tried to present that in some of the history. What the maps actually mean and where they actually apply. I tried to do some of that as well. And based on that, these maps, they are based on criteria that include fire history, vegetation, predictable flame lengths, ember production and movement, topography, climate, and there's an emphasis on the spread of embers, which is actually, there's a pretty robust scientific effort going on, not just from the fire service, but from the insurance agency. So IBHS and some of the others have done a lot of work to show how the insult from ember cast is really one of the biggest things that affects a home, so or a structure. So with that, I have some links and some information that I know is actually really not more than just for me to show you these things exist. We vetted these and we looked at these and we provided it to the city staff. So we want to make sure that they're available not just for you but for the public, so that they can start doing their own research. So when it comes down to it, the science, the methodology for how this work was done, we want to make sure that that information is available, and I explained a little bit of the components that were involved in how that works. And next, there is finding or retaining insurance. So CDI, or California Department of Insurance, and specifically Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, has put information out. The position from CDI is that insurance companies use risk models, and that's why I talked about risk versus hazard, not hazard models, to take into consideration short-term factors, not including hazard modeling. So the Safer from Wildfire link here, and since I have a limited amount of time, I want to point people in the right direction. There's a solid baseline of the types of things that can be done in order to increase your opportunity for risk. And then Ricardo Lara, as the commissioner, has done a lot in order to push out legislation, standards, and other requirements of the insurance industries to make sure that we do have the ability for people to keep and find insurance. And then finally, costly upgrades, which effectively would be home hardening, are other things that are top of mind. You know, the putting gravel around your house, or sealing up vents and doing other types of work, or changing a roof. These are all, they seem to be very expensive, very difficult things to take on. So with that, there is a low-cost retrofitting list from CDI as well. There's a reference point there. We're going to continue to put out information, because there are a number of things that can happen, and they don't all have to happen at one time, because I have been part of a work group for the Zone Zero, and they're definitely talking about phased-in approaches, especially for existing structures and work that might be happening that would be required, but it's not realistic to say that it's going to be requiring things immediately. So as that becomes much more clear, that information will also be put forward for your understanding. And then finally, so what does it mean if you are in a zone that now is a very high fire or even high fire severity zone? It means that potentially you may have a building standard that is a WUI building standard, which means that there's going to be a little bit different construction methods. But these are the ones that actually would create a situation where you'd have increased opportunity or outcomes like the one in that what looked like a devastated hillside with one building standing. So these are the things that directly are driving those kind of outcomes. Then there's the hazard real estate disclosures. That's a disclosure for a point of sale. It just lets you know and be aware of the things that have to be done, and that's a function of the sale. So that would be another thing that would take place. The 100-foot defensible space requirements. We have properties in Cupertino that we conduct fire inspections for, those annual inspections. So our zone's going to get bigger, and that is going to be one of the additional things that would be a component. But there's really nothing aside from being aware that they are happening and taking the assistance of County Fire to do the work. And if there's any kind of additional information or need, that would be it. But understanding and knowing the defensible space standards that are going to be associated with being in the WUI. And then property development standards. These are the minimum fire safe standards. These are the road standards that we put in place. So how wide a road is, how long a dead end road is, the signage, water supply. Those are the things that are, if you had a project that was being constructed in the last 3 or 4 years, you are already subject to 4290 in the hillsides. So those will also be a component. And then the new maps will also have to be recognized and memorialized within all of the general plans and the safety elements and anything associated with that. Probably some of the roads and other infrastructure would be included. But with that, there is one big message here, and I think that the creation of fire-wise communities is probably the single most important thing that an individual resident could do, and it's one of the most important things that a neighborhood can do to handle the fire risk as a team. I am myself a member of a fire-wise community. I think that when it comes down to it, it's a great way to receive information and collaborate and gain resource in order to try to mitigate the risk of wildfire. And I will take any questions, but this is another group of links that is also being provided to staff so that they can be out, they can be pushed out into the public with some of the information, especially the FAQs. And the fire hazard severity rollout, I would say, is second to the bottom there. If you're interested in the science and the methodology, that's one I would say watch tonight. And I will take any questions. I'm sorry I went long, but I didn't know how to make it shorter.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been about almost 25 minutes, but I think this presentation is important. It's longer than we had allotted for, but I would like you to take the time to finish. Would you forward the presentation to the city clerk so it can be put into the written communication of the meeting, then people can access them?
I will indeed.
And is there a FAQ that answer a lot of the things you have answered today? People can look up.
We have an FAQ. I'll make sure that any new information that I have will update the FAQ that we have delivered earlier, and then we'll provide that as well.
Great. And if people I have many questions. I'm sure other people have questions. So how could they get their questions answered?
If you want to direct them through staff, we can work with them directly. And then that way
so they can direct to the council, and the staff can try to get answers from you. Okay.
And I would defer to the process.
Yeah. Any other council member has short question? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here. I understand other cities have study sessions on this topic. So if there is a need, we might consider that so we can talk offline about that.
We could be available for that if you need.
Thank you. So next we have 4 ceremonial items. It's more than normal, but there is a very important item that we squeezed in tonight. This is a proclamation honoring the life and legacy of Ty Bloomquist, a dedicated employee of the city of Cupertino, who passed away on March 28, 2025. We pause and reflect to honor this remarkable individual, Ty Bloomquist, whose life was defined by service, commitment, and selflessness. Ty was a dedicated member of Cupertino family and served in the city for 25 years. His passing leaves behind a legacy of hard work, leadership, and compassion. And beyond his city service, he also served on United States Marine Corps. He also volunteered with the county search and rescue team, responding to 51 searches and contributing more than 1,200 hours to helping others in times of crisis. These numbers reflect a life centered on service to others. Even in his passing, Ty continued to serve. He donated his liver and saving another life as his final act of generosity. He is survived by his loving wife, Renee, and his son, Gregory, and daughter, Summer. To them, we extend our deepest sympathy. As we remember Thai, I challenge all of us here today to live lives of service, following his example, whether in small ways or great, to make a lasting difference in our community. Thai's impact lives on in the lives he touched, his family, and the community he served faithfully. So I believe Renee has a few words to say. You're welcome to the podium.
Do I have to use the microphone? Can everybody hear me?
It might be, it's also for the recording,
Okay.
so that's the microphone.
This one here?
There, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, Ty did serve this community for 25 years. He started in July 2000, and then we were married in September 2000. And so being here is kind of, he always spoke about these buildings, and he loved this city. He worked his way up. He spent many hours on call, which provided a lot of extra funds for our two children's many activities. So I'm very grateful for that. He had a wonderful workforce here, wonderful coworkers, and I just thank you.
Yeah, our condolences, and thank you for Thai and your family's service to the city. On behalf of the City Council, we have prepared a proclamation honoring the life and service of Thai Crest to his family. And I believe the Director of Public Works, Chad, will present the proclamation to the family. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chad, for suggesting us doing the proclamation in the City Council meeting. It's really important. Next, we have a proclamation and to recognize Cupertino's volunteers for the Volunteer Week. That's April 20th to 26th, for their outstanding contribution and dedicated service. It is important that we recognize our city staff, but the city also rely a lot on community volunteers to help us function, especially in preparation for fire danger or potential any other emergency. Tonight, we shine a light on the dedicated volunteers of the Cupertino Citizens Corps. First, I'd like to acknowledge Cupertino Amateur Radio Emergency Service, or CARES. These volunteers provide critical communication capabilities when conventional systems may go down, bridging gaps, relaying vital information, and keeping our community connected when it matters the most. So there is a proclamation for that group. Next, we recognize the Cupertino Emergency Response Team, or CERT. These community members are trained in everything from basic disaster response to light search and rescue in the event of local emergency. They step in to support first responders and help neighbors in need. And there is a proclamation for CERT volunteers. And finally, we thank the volunteers of the Medical Reserve Corps. These are our local health professionals. You see them in a lot of festivals. They always have booths to help people in need. who lend their expertise during public health events, emergencies, providing medical support, guidance, and care when our community needs it most. Each of these groups embodies the spirit of National Volunteer Week, service, commitment, and community. They train year-round to show up when others are in need. And to all of the volunteers, we thank you. And still here is a quote: "Those who can do, those who can do more, volunteer." Happy National Volunteer Week. And I'm also hosting a volunteer appreciation dinner this Thursday to honor these volunteers and block leaders at an event night. And initially I was going to fund that with my mayor's fund because this is not a budgeted item for the city. But fortunately, we have a sponsor now for the event, so we can get better quality dinner because of the sponsorship. So looking forward to see you Thursday dinner. Now, do we have anyone who would like to say a few words?
Mayor, I believe we have Fari Aberg, Alberto Belita, and
Fari Aberg, Jim Oberhofer, and Alberto Boleda. Yeah, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you for your support.
And then we will just present the proclamations. Yeah. So thank you for all the time you put in to get trained. And I'm told that there is one more proclamation for Ken Erickson, who has been a part-time volunteer leader to connect all the volunteers together to provide a service. So thank you all for you. Do we want maybe each of you can hold one?
Okay.
And maybe you should be in the center, I think. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I hope I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you very much.
I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have the proclamation for Santa Clara Bird Alliance, and recognizing its 100 years of conservation and community. I believe we have a presentation from Shiny Kleinhaus and Matthew Daughter.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Lang Chow and the entire Cupertino City Council for the opportunity to speak tonight and for your interest in our organization's work. My name is Matthew Daughter. I'm the Executive Director of Santa Clara Valley Bird Alliance. We were founded in 1925 and have been headquartered at McClellan Ranch in Cupertino since 1991. Our mission is to promote the enjoyment, understanding, and protection of birds and other wildlife by engaging people of all ages in birding, education, and conservation. As we like to say, we've been inspiring people to care about birds for 100 years, and we'll be celebrating that milestone with a special banquet at a one-day festival on October 3rd and 4th, and I certainly hope to see some of you there. Our mission rests on three important program pillars. Our education program reaches more than 2,200 students each year and provides elementary school students with meaningful in-class outdoor experiences with nature and introduces them to the concept of biodiversity that is so very important to the health of our environment. This work ensures that these children will grow up to be good stewards of the natural world. And we also have separate programs for adults, primarily through online classes and guest speakers. Our conservation program focuses on projects that protect our birds and the habitats they need. Projects like supporting the Cupertino Park Master Plan, the development of bird safe design, and Cupertino's dark sky ordinances. We are so grateful to have the support of Mayor Lang Chow and the entire Cupertino City Council. Finally, our birding program provides free field trips to our many bird-rich locations so that our members and the general public can learn about the wildlife of our area. Seasonal bioblitzes are particularly popular with families, and those are open to the public. We thank Mayor Liang Chow and the City Council of Cupertino for this proclamation and for supporting our mission by providing us with a home for our organization, a stunning location at McClellan Ranch where the nature that we strive to protect is right outside our front door. So with that, thank you for your time, your interest, and your attention, and good night.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank you for providing all the resources and activities for our citizens to enjoy. Yeah, thank you for
I should mention there are plenty of
choosing,
volunteer opportunities as well.
Yeah. So let's do the photo.
There's only 4 of us. Anyway, we need to go there.
Okay. So do it, let's get closer together, yeah.
Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation for the Rolling Hills 4-H Club and recognizing its contribution to youth leadership development and service to the Cupertino community. So we have a presentation from Kai Wu and maybe another youth, or a group of youth. Welcome.
Let's see. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. Our names are Kai and Audrey, and today we're going to share a little bit about the Rolling Hills 4-H Club and the Environmental Stewardship Project here in Cupertino. So thank you guys so much for having us. So what is 4-H? 4-H is America's largest youth development organization, reaching over 6 million kids across the country. Through hands-on projects in areas like science, health, agriculture, and civic engagement, 4-H helps young people explore their passions in a variety of areas. And here in Cupertino, our club, Rolling Hills 4-H, is the largest in Santa Clara County. And we were founded back in 1971 with only 15 members. And today we're lucky enough to grow to involve over 100 youth. And at our club, we offer the most projects in the county. And these projects range from poultry to beekeeping and even an alpaca project. And beyond our individual projects, we also like to stay active in the community where we create care kits for Home First. We run donation drives, and we also volunteer with organizations such as Family Giving Tree. 4-H youth also care for a lot of animals at the McClellan Ranch and hold monthly public ranch tours. And one of the projects that we are especially involved in is our environmental stewardship project. In this project, we focus on restoring native plant habitats and improving biodiversity at McClellan Ranch. We hold a few work days every year where we remove invasive species and plant locally native plants to support the local ecosystem and make sure that it's healthy. And finally, we partner with Grassroots Ecology, which is a local nonprofit, in order to learn more about the environment and how we can protect it as 4-Hers.
Our work is important at McClellan Ranch because it is home to a variety of wildlife, from songbirds, woodpeckers, owls, and hawks, and also deer that roam freely. You'll also find many smaller critters thriving throughout the preserve's diverse habitats. The 4-H Environmental Stewardship Project helps protect and improve these habitats, and it is important because it's a hands-on way us youth like us can connect to nature and take an active role in preserving it. The Environmental Stewardship Project was also just awarded $2,500 from the Happy Hollows Foundation Progress for Pollinators. It helps us fund our planting days and helps us build educational signs. It overall helps us teach public to protect the nature and the importance of our pollinators. Thank you for learning about the 4-H projects and the work being done through all our projects.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for all the adult volunteers. It's all your participation that make it possible. My children were also in 4-H a long time ago, so really appreciate that. And thank you for Alisa for suggesting recognizing 4-H. I'd like, this is what I'm doing this year, so if you have any other worthy organization that have consistently contributed to Cupertino, please suggest them for future proclamations. Yeah, here. Yeah, my kids were in the bee project too. It was the most fun. Oh, you guys should be. Who should, you should be holding this? Yeah.
Big guys in the back. No, that's good. All right. Look at the chart. What is this? Honey? Honey. Let's see the honey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And there are some city staff sitting there also if you have extra. Yeah. So next we have postponements. Do we have any postponements or orders of the day? We don't have any, right?
Nothing, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we have the oral communication. So the city clerk will read some instructions.
Yes, Mayor. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the council and not on the agenda for discussion. The total time for oral communications will ordinarily be limited to 1 hour. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes. As necessary, the chair may further limit the time allowed to individual speakers or reschedule remaining comments to the end of the meeting on a first-come, first-heard basis, with priority given to students. In most cases, state law will prohibit the council from discussing or making any decisions with respect to a matter not listed on the agenda. A council member may, however, briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by speakers. A council member may also ask a question for clarification, provide a reference for factual information, request staff to report back concerning a matter, or request that an item be added to a future city council agenda in response to public comment. Anyone wishing to provide comments under this item, please submit your request to speak within the next 9 minutes. And Mayor, we have presently 6 requests to speak from in Community Hall. I see 3 requests from members of the public remotely.
So about 30 minutes, yeah.
18, yes, 27 minutes takes us to.
Okay.
Yes, proceed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Rhoda Fry, Devender, and Aberry R. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, good evening. What little zoning we have left in Cupertino is under siege. YIMBY is now suing the city for builder remedy projects Schofield and Linda Vista, which is in a WUI zone. Please don't capitulate and do everything feasible to protect our zoning. Similarly, Foothill De Anza College intends to spend nearly $100 million to convert the McClellan Terrace apartments to student housing and evict my neighbors. About 70% of those residents are not yet citizens, and that's why you haven't heard from them. So please don't think that they don't care. They do. Housing for our community college students is important, but it must not displace our residents whose children have a half-a-mile walk to K through 12. Tonight, you'll notice many residents here to advocate for new housing for people with developmental disabilities, and they're doing so by displacing no one. If that complex becomes state property, we will have little control over what is done with it. Remember the great loss of mature trees on the campus's periphery, Flint Center? The district has discussed partnering with developers to build market rate housing, and in their presentation of the purchase, they said the site could generate future value. So imagine market rate housing for international students looming over single-family homes. It is not okay for the district to use our bond funds for speculative real estate deals. And our property taxes are paying for this. For every $1 million in assessed value, property owners are paying nearly $300 a year over and above what is allocated in our tax bills for the district. Removing 94 family homes as access to our K through 12 schools that are just a half-a-mile away is bad for our city and morally reprehensible. There are better solutions. Please do what you can to convince the district to stop this waste of public funds and what they're doing to the residents and the future of our city, the future of our schools. 94 homes right now, we got 67 students there. So we're looking at, maybe about 4 teachers, losing 4 teachers permanently from FUHSD. So, the district is saying that yeah, they could move 10 miles away. Well, that means anybody who could have been there could move 10 miles away. 10 miles away, that's out of our local schools, out of our school districts, out of our city, and that's not okay. So please, do everything in your power to just say no. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhoda.
Oh, and if you all agree with me, please raise your hand. Anybody in here so the council can see. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhoda. Next we have Devender, followed by a Barry R., followed by a student from FUHSD regarding accessibility. Welcome, Devender.
Yeah, respected council members and mayor, good evening, everyone. I urge the city council to adopt an urgency ordinance to stop the conversion of multifamily rental housing into other non-residential use. This protects affordable homes for families, seniors, and long-term residents, and the kids who goes to these three schools: Lincoln Elementary, Faria, Kennedy Middle School, and Monte Vista. And Cupertino must now, before we lose a vital housing like McLean Terrace, I strongly request the council members to act upon. And the similar thing happened in San Francisco, Berkeley, and also currently, if you have noticed, in San Ramon area near the Winderman High School, if you have noticed there, there's so many drug problems because of this, students' issues there. So you can go and study that also. So I request the council members to take all these into matters and then take a appropriate action. Thank you.
Thank you, Devender. Next we have a Barry, followed by a student with FUHSD, followed by Peggy Griffin. A Barry K. Hi.
My name is Abhishek. I'm just following up what Devendra is saying.
Did you submit a card?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes.
You said your name was a Barry?
Abhishek.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I mispronounced your name.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add on what Devendra just shared. I live in McLean, and I think we had the opportunity to talk to CUSD board. We went there, Rhoda spoke to them, and they were very concerned knowing that a loss of students from the K-12, which has been there for last 50 years, can actually reduce their full-time employees before. They actually clapped on it because they want to support this and they feel like this should be commented back to the district. We went to the district FHDA board and we actually addressed to them for this concern. We had a few minutes. There were a lot of people who talked about it. I addressed Mr. Chancellor directly because I find that he should be our friend because his family was displaced from South Korea for a situation that was not meant there. And I feel like he understands the situation, and we want to make sure that it is not just spoken to the council members here, but also to CUSD, FHUSDs, and also the FHDA who's taking this situation in hand. I think there has been more communication from FHDAs, but in relevant, we want to make sure that this place continues to be supported for the families. This is a great location for approximately 90 families. We have first responders, we have teachers, we have administrators, and I think one of the discussion that we thought process was given to the FHDA was to tell them this could actually be supported more for students, not just students, but the families of the full-time employees for the CUSDs, FUSDs, and they have kids, they probably will go back to the school, and then that would be a great addition. So having more teachers or first responders to this place, they also need affordable, and they are meant to serve for the city rather than we serve someone else who's coming from outside. It would be a great support to the city. So I really feel it should be looked into. And lastly, I believe the zoning should be taken care of. Things that I would hope would not happen, like the students come in, this is a very costly place, so they will need money. They will bring another 2 people for free of cost, share the cost, and you might be thinking this is a place for 300, but maybe it is for double the number of people. Who's going to regulate that? Who's going to look into the number of people actually in this rooms, because it's not a dome style. There's no security. It's like come in and go out. Anyone can stay it out. So I think the concerns from the public safety looms large, and I hope that the council members here will look into it and give the support for the city back, because they need this at this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next we have a student. You did not leave your name, but you wanted to speak on accessibility. You're a student from FUHSD. Oh, hi. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, my name is Steven. Hello, members of the City Council. I'm Stephen Shi, and I'm a freshman at Monte Vista High School. And I'm here today to speak on an issue specifically affecting teens. Now, as you may or may not have noticed, Cupertino is largely immigrants. And, well, many people from different cultures aren't very able to interact with each other. But our cultures, our backgrounds, and our habits, they're ultimately all too different, and that results in a disconnect. But many people want to interact with each other, and they would really like to help, but can't, ultimately because of this disconnect. For example, my parents always want to know what's happening in my life, but whenever they don't know something, I have to try my best to answer their questions, which inevitably leads to a question which I simply do not have the answer to. And this is why I think we need a proactive approach to tackle the disconnect. Even though we have some forms of translation, the ultimate problem is that asking questions, communicating, and actually interacting still remains a troubling task. In communication, hearing somebody's voice is extremely important to create an understanding between everyone, which means that parents or students who want to interact actually need to understand what they're hearing. I'm speaking here today to hopefully enact some change, to create something that could get more people involved by spreading their knowledge. Anything to help bridge the gap between cultures would be extremely helpful, and ultimately, I'm just here to hopefully incite some change within our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have Peggy Griffin, followed by Jennifer Griffin, followed by Stephen Kwan. Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening. May I use the overhead, please?
Yes, you may.
I want to thank him. I agree, it's a really cool idea. There are just questions you have about different cultures that I love learning about, so I encourage us to all do that. I'm here about 3 issues. Written communication. I'm asking you to automatically include communications for a specific council meeting in written communications without that statement required. Return hybrid meetings. Return all commissions to hybrid meetings and to their original locations. State legislation. I'm really worried about SB 79. We have just so little control, and now this one sounds like it'll just take the rest of it. And SB 509 is of concern, so please start monitoring the legislation and be proactive. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Next we have Jennifer Griffin, followed by Stephen Kwan, and then we will move to those members of the public requesting to speak virtually. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. It was really nice to hear the younger folks speaking about 4-H, and then the last young man about Monte Vista. My husband was actually in the first graduating class from Monte Vista. I love hearing stories about how it was back then, back in the olden days. I just wanted to start out, I'm going to repeat what Peggy said. There are some bills that are coming up. SB 79 by Senator Weiner is very, very concerning. This would upzone anything basically along what is considered a transit line. So anything that would be like a bus route that was 1/4 mile to 1/2 mile, if this bill passes, could be upzoned to high-density housing, 7 stories. It's organized into Tier 1 and Tier 2, which is quite confusing when you read it. But as people have explained it to me, it is extremely upsetting because this bill has been considered the biggest taking of public land in the entire state. It is as bad as SB 50. And SB 50 was kind of the grandfather of all housing bills that was fought down. I think I spent probably 10 hours a week for 2 months in the last amount of trying, and it was a 2-year bill. We want to have the public in the state have a seat at the table. Senator Wiener is he's going to be termed out in 2 or 3 years, and I hope he goes on to great fame in other areas, but we really need to try to stop making decisions for everyone in the state when they are not allowed to vote. This has been going on since 2018. I used to be a big fan of the previous governor, but Jerry Brown, parents adored him. But when he actually passed some of these first housing bills, I couldn't believe it. I was astounded that the public that he loved so much in this state and his parents' legacy were on the line. My parents adored his parents. His father was one of the best governors we ever had. And to have that legacy just blown up all over the place by the housing bills is just horrible. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, what is the purpose of the community colleges? We have wonderful community colleges. We have San Jose City College, where my niece went. She is now an emergency room nurse in Seattle, Washington. We have Mission College, which there's a whole lot of new housing going in. The community colleges were established to provide close-by college opportunities for local students. We need to go back to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next we have Stephen Kwan, and then we will move to those speaking remotely. Welcome.
Hi. I just wanted to ask for your support on the Mary Villa housing that's coming up in front of you. My son's grown up here. It would be great if he could stay in the community. Oops. Sorry?
Excuse me, I believe that item is on the agenda, and so you should be speaking when that item comes up.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we have 5 members of the public requesting to speak virtually. Ranjan Desai, San R, Rati Kartik, Venkatasan Raghunathan, and David Y. Welcome, Ranjan.
Yes, this is Ranjan Desai. Good evening, council members. I'd like to talk about the Against Marian project. I think I've already spoken that earlier, and there were a lot of oppositions from different members of the committee at the Quinlan centers, and I hope that's taken into consideration. And I'm not sure what the update of that is currently, but there's going to be very less space for the parking, and there's a lot of overflow parking that happens here, and there's not much space for the events that happen in the Memorial Park at all. So I hope that's all taken into consideration, and then we turn down the Marian project, actually, the Lovelas project, because we need to find a better place for that. This is a very small place where there's no much option for development, and for even a few houses. And then when you're going to have so many houses, it's going to be really a big headache for all these small children who go to schools around nearby. I just wanted to talk about that, and maybe if there's something going to come up in the next item, I think I'll again speak on that. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk against this.
Thank you. Next we have San R, followed by Rati Kartik. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I have written to you on a number of topics, and I want to recap some of them really quickly tonight. But most importantly, I want to urge you to be very thoughtful and deliberate with agenda setting. It is very disappointing to see an agenda like tonight when there's practically nothing on the calendar for action items. When we look at a lost opportunity like tonight, this really is concerning to residents because we voted for change. It's been 4 months, and we see yet another missed opportunity tonight with an agenda coming and going by with very, very little on the calendar. Your time is more important than setting agenda for trivial things like what is the direction on where you should direct one single item to go and which commission and so on. Please be strategic with your time and apply it judiciously. On the items that I would like to bring to your attention, I urge you to please agendize an interim moratorium or an urgency ordinance to regulate the conversion of existing rental housing units to student housing. This has been done in San Francisco. The San Francisco Municipal Code Section 317, authored by Scott Wiener, who's been a fierce advocate for housing, has done this over 13 years ago. And we can do this in Cupertino. We cannot afford to lose housing units. We need net addition of housing units, and let us protect our renters. One pool of renters are not more important than the other, and we need to welcome new residents in the community without displacing our existing residents. 33 CUSD members spread across 2 schools could be an average of 17 kids impacted in Lincoln and 17 in Kennedy. 17 kids in Lincoln could mean one classroom is going to shut down. And if one classroom shuts down and that grade has only one class, that means one cohort is gone. And this kind of change can really take Lincoln down, coming on the back of Regnart already having been lost to the community. So let's not allow for these things to happen. We need to regulate conversion. We need to make sure that change of land use is regulated. And we need to make sure that community meetings and public hearings are conducted for any such matter. The second thing I want to bring up really quickly tonight is the topic of federal grants. There have been a number of cities that are agendizing on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to review the status of federal grants, the cancellation of grants, and the impact on projects. I have brought up to you previously that federal grants have likely been canceled in the area of photovoltaic cell systems. And this is an area that I urge you to not spend $7 million of the city money on, and make sure that we are reviewing grants. If there is no grant money coming, we need to cancel these projects in a timely manner and save the city money.
Thank you, Sam. That is your time. Next, we have Rati Kartik, followed by Venkat Raghunathan, followed by David Y. Welcome, Rati.
Hi, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk. My name is Rati and I have 2 kids and I'm from Casadian's property. So it's really alarming that there is a new project going to be constructed near our place. My children, both of them, commute to school by bike, and encroaching all the bike lanes and making limited parking and increasing traffic flow is extremely frightening. So we have all been informed that there are several attempts from our side showing dissatisfaction about safety and traffic flow. But on the other side, I also hear that the city council is still trying to go ahead with this. So I would only like to request that please stop this. It's a big safety concern for us and it's really frightening. But in any case, if there is an attempt to still pursue it, then we will have no option but to go against city council and maybe file a case or anything like that. Sorry to say that, but yeah, safety of our children is primarily very important to all of us. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Next, we have Venkat Raghunathan, followed by David Y. Welcome, Venkat.
Hi, good evening, Council. This is Venkat Raghunathan. I'm a long-time resident of Cupertino. First of all, I want to second and support the submissions regarding the McClellan Terrace and preserving the rental housing for families and not convert them for another need like student housing for those students in need from the community. What I want to bring into that said, I want to bring your attention again to the Wolf Road housing and preserving the sound wall that separates the Portal neighborhood from the new developments, both Wolf Road housing and the Rise. While I am supporting of DMR housing and all that should not affect the quality of life of this neighborhood, which, as you all know, it's been under constant barrage of construction and demolition in different forms for the over decade or most part of the whole last decade. So I urge the council to do whatever in its capacity to make sure the secondary emergency exit is not created by breaching the sound wall under other proxies or disguises like active transportation plan. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Next we have David Y. Welcome, David.
Mayor and council members. 2 months ago, I presented concerns about wildfire risk, inadequate evacuation routes, and the city's lack of an environmental review. When I spoke, the warning wasn't theoretical then, and now it's backed by the state of California. The state fire marshal finalized a fire hazard severity zone map, and Evelich Court sits at the very heart of the very high fire hazard zone. It's no longer just a neighborhood concern, it's official. And while, I and a few of my neighbors have spoken repeatedly on this topic, it's important to remind you that we speak on behalf of over 700 residents, and there's a core group of over 150 active members who are very closely following this Evelich Court project. And we requested an EIR and a CEQA review. We've heard nothing back on that, no update, no commitment. Meanwhile, the developer's revised application is under active review, and we don't know if CEQA will ever be triggered or if an EIR that is a very reasonable request will ever be looked into. That's quite disappointing in light of the confirmed risk. It's not just about the single project. You've got another proposal less than 1,000 feet away at Linda Vista Park. But instead of assessing cumulative risk, the city is reviewing them in silos as if wildfire traffic and evacuation impacts respect boundaries, and they don't. The insurance market is reacting too. Insurers are pulling out of high-risk zones or pricing homeowners out. If the city approves high-density development in these areas that are designated as very high fire hazard zones without a full EIR, it's gambling with our safety and financial exposure. So this EIR that we've requested for repeatedly isn't just checking a box. It's about building the trust in the process. And there's so much public concern and open questions about this subject. So I think it would give the council something valuable. It would give the city and the council credibility. It shows that the public that the city didn't rush and didn't skip steps, especially in a fire-prone zone. So let's not approve a project like this without full transparency, and we don't want that scrutiny to be on the city or the council. So let's get that done, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item?
Okay, thank you. Any question or comment, short question or comment from council? So regarding the written communications, I think is it appropriate that I address that?
That's fine, yes.
Yeah. I don't think the city has changed the policy. I think the intent is if someone emailed the council with a tree in their neighbor, and maybe they don't intend that to be entered into the written record of the city council, it shouldn't be. So I think that has been the practice according to the city clerk, that you need to indicate you want that to be in the meeting record when it's not on agenda item. If it's agenda item, of course, that's included, right?
That's correct, Mayor.
Yeah, and so that's actually not changed in the past 2 years. So then I do want to the staff to provide us an update with the logistics to provide hybrid commission meetings similar to what we had during COVID. So could we get an update that.
So we issued an info memo about a year or so ago. Would you like that to be recirculated, or is there any more updated information?
I would like to know if we would like to restore what will be involved.
All commissions or just one?
All commission.
All 10 commissions?
Yeah.
And then back here or where else?
I think they were originally in other locations, so I don't know what meeting rooms we now have hybrid ability. So that's why it will be good to have an idea what meeting rooms currently have hybrid ability.
Okay. And then would you like some fiscal impact as well to know what how much it would be to bring it back?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That would be
more than
good.
happy to.
Thank you. And regarding the bills, I believe we formed a subcommittee for legislative review. And
I'll defer to you.
So for the bills, if the city would like to take position, do I propose them to be added for the next meeting, or?
So the subcommittee is there to review whatever bills you feel are appropriate, and then the subcommittee would bring that back to the council, and the council would vote by majority vote. Then it would be something you would comment on at the state level.
Okay, so we can refer SB 79 and SB 509 mentioned by the public to the subcommittee.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. So next we have the consent agenda items. The item 12, I believe, is pulled. The CDBG grant is pulled. May I have an so we first have a public comment on the items 9, 10, and 11. Wait, so do I do a motion? Yeah. So do public comment. So let's do public comment on item 9, 10, and 11.
Mayor, I currently see no requests for items 9, 10, or 11.
Okay. And I believe the council member, if you would like to make a short comment or question on these 3 items, you may do so. If not, then let's have a motion to approve 9 to 11, and I think item 12 is timely, so we would put item 12 before the action calendar.
Motion to move with the consent calendar, sans item number 12.
And then also put item 12 before
Put item 12 before the action calendar.
Yeah. Okay.
Moore, second.
Okay, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay. 8. Okay, so now we have item 12.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Ben Fu, Director of Community Development. This item 12, I'm here with Nikki Vu, Senior Housing Coordinator. We're here to give you a brief presentation on item 12, which is presenting you the Housing Commission's recommendation for this year's CDBG grant program, as well as a BMR funding allocation. The recommended action is to authorize the city manager to execute the proposed funding agreements. With that, I will hand it off to Nikki for a little bit more detailed discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, Madam Mayor and the City Council. So, as Ben stated, my item before you tonight is the funding contributions to the next fiscal year's Housing Division projects and programs. This includes the funding programs of Community Development Block Grant, Permanent Local Housing Allocation, Below Market Rate Affordable Housing Fund, Human Services Grant, and a County District Inventory Grant. our recommended action for you tonight is to approve the funding recommendations as made by the Housing Commission and to authorize the city manager to execute the associated agreements to the respective organizations as appropriate.
With that, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the council members? No questions, then let's go to public comment.
Yes, Mayor, I have 6 requests to speak from within Community Hall. I see 3 requests to speak virtually, so that would take us to 27 minutes. Yes,
Yeah.
okay, so Eric McKinley, Nader Vadat, Giafam. Welcome, Eric.
Hi, my name is Eric McKinley. I've lived in the Monte Vista neighborhood for about 40 years now. And we have a daughter who is on the autism spectrum, and we were very, very fortunate to find affordable housing for her in downtown San Jose, and mostly what I want to speak to is the value of that for her and for our whole family. Having her live there and develop into an independent young woman has been incredible for us, and as you know, the value for that to us is just incalculable. So I would very much like to see more opportunities for people with developmental disabilities to get affordable housing in this area. So I hope you will take that into account.
Thank you, Eric. Next we have Nadar Vadat and Giafam and Jennifer Lucas. Welcome, Nadar.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. After more than 25 years of advocacy, creating affordable housing units for Cupertino residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities, IDD, is long overdue. Advances in medical care plus Cupertino's special education programs have enabled people with IDD to live longer, become more capable, and be more independent, seeking respect, dignity, and freedom to make their own choices. They want to move out of their parents' homes and live on their own in their hometown with family nearby. My daughter has an apartment in Cupertino. She benefits from having her own Section 8 voucher, which is nearly unheard of today. Without it, she couldn't afford to live there independently. Our family supports the Mary Avenue Villas project because we want others with IDD to experience the same joy that our daughter has from living in an apartment in the community where she grew up. She's familiar with its logistics, has family and longtime friends nearby, and is conveniently located near the amenities she needs and desires. Adults like her, living on an income below 30% area median income, AMI, can only afford extremely low income housing, below 30% of AMI. Others who have some gainful employment or with the help of their roommates' income may qualify for low income, which is 50% below MI. The Mary Avenue Villas apartment project and the land leased from Cupertino could become a home for people in Cupertino who have IDD. This nearly shovel-ready project is now applying for much needed below market rate funds so that development can be moved forward. Let's show that we welcome them to stay in Cupertino, where they were community members as they were growing up and where their natural support system resides. Please follow the Housing Commission's recommendation that this project be awarded $3 million from Cupertino's available affordable housing funding resources. And I would like to thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you. Next, we have Gia Fong, followed by Jennifer Lucas, followed by Janet and Cindy Van Zoren. Welcome, Gia.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Gia, and I am the Communications Coordinator at Housing Choices. We will be the on-site service provider at Mary Avenue Villas. I'm here to voice my strong support for the Mary Avenue Villas and to urge you to approve the full $3 million in funding recommended by the Housing Commission. This project will bring over 40 affordable homes to Cupertino, including 19 specifically for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities or IDD. These homes represent so much more than just housing. They're doorways to independence, to dignity, to a life in the community that they grew up in and have been waited for far too long for this chance. In my work, I connect with people who have IDD every single day. I hear their hopes, their dreams, their visions for a meaningful life. And I also work alongside them through long journeys and often discouraging in the search to find safe, stable, and affordable home. These individuals have great potential. They want to belong. They want to live independently with pride and purpose, not be forced into institutions or worst, pushed into homelessness when their caregivers can no longer look after them as they age. But the reality is most live on just $1,000 a month from SSI. And we all know that that's not nearly enough to live in Cupertino and cover other basic needs as well. The city's housing element clearly states the obligation to build housing for all of its residents. Mary Avenue Villas is exactly that kind of housing designed for people of extremely low income. This is about catching up. Cities across the Bay Area, our neighbors, are already investing in the most vulnerable populations, including people with IDD. Cupertino is behind, and this is a chance to change that. This is an opportunity to show that we value people with disabilities just as much as our neighboring cities do. Mary Avenue Villas is equity in action. It's designed for people with the highest needs and living at the lowest incomes. It takes more resources to build this kind of housing. People with IDD deserve the right to choose their own housing under the Landman Act, but they can't fully exercise this if there's no affordable housing. We've underinvested in this population for far too long, and this is our chance to start changing that. Please approve the full $3 million funding for Mary Avenue Villas. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Gia. Next, we have Jennifer Lucas, followed by Janet and Cindy Van Zoren, followed by Stephen Sharp. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Lucas. I'm the manager of the Central Coast Office of the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities. The State Council is an independent state advocacy agency established in both state and federal law, and we are designed to ensure that we work with advancing systems change, building community capacity, and improving the systems and supports out there. I'm here to voice my strong support for the Mary Avenue Villas project and to urge the City Council to approve the funding allocations recommended by the Housing Commission. This project will provide much needed permanent, affordable, and inclusive housing for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and enable them to live independently in a home of their choosing in the community. People with developmental disabilities are particularly impacted by the shortage of affordable housing. As you heard a second ago, they often live on just SSI, which is just over $1,000. They face multiple barriers in all aspects of life, including around getting employment, education, you name it, the barriers faced. Housing is a considerable barrier and hurdle. At least 70% of people with developmental disabilities in this city, in Cupertino, continue to reside with their aging parents. And that's not tenable or feasible ongoing. It's more critical than ever that Cupertino provide affordable, permanent, and inclusive housing options for this population. By supporting and improving the recommended funding allocations for this project, you'll be offering people with intellectual and developmental disabilities the opportunity to live independently, the opportunity to live dignified lives, and to be fully included in their community. Thank you for your commitment and leadership in addressing this urgent need for affordable, permanent, and inclusive housing in Cupertino. By supporting this project, you are ensuring that Cupertino is a city that prioritizes all of its residents and sends a message that everyone belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Janet and Cindy Van Zoren. Mayor, they would like to consolidate their time for up to 4 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me. Cindy has yielded her time to me. I hope that's okay with everybody. My daughter Cindy, like Nader's daughter, has lived in Cupertino in the apartment complex next to the veranda since the year 2000. She was also one of the lucky ones to get a Section 8 certificate. Without that, she would not have been able to live there. We've been trying to encourage Cupertino to create more housing for people with developmental disabilities since 1997. Cupertino has changed. Gone are the retail shopping, the movie theater, the ballet classes, the Hobie's restaurants, and the farmers market at the Oaks. Gone is Flint Center at the college. Gone too are the needs for parking on Mary. Events at Memorial Park are now require Cupertino city permit with a prerequisite for parking arrangements at De Anza College. As a result, Mary Avenue has lots of surplus parking. Many residents of the very low income Mary Avenue villas either cannot drive or cannot afford to, and the 22 spaces of on-site parking should be more than enough for those who do have cars. Furthermore, most service providers coming to this complex will be arriving after many of the cars have left in the morning and gone before they return. Community members who fret that residents of Mary Avenue villas will gobble up many spaces on Mary Avenue are uninformed. Yes, the realignment of Mary Avenue for construction of the villas will result in a loss of 89 of the 200 plus parking spaces there now. Whose need for parking will be unmet by the 100 plus remaining spaces along Mary? What are they needed for? Why do they need those spaces? Most of our neighboring cities have created affordable housing for their community members who have IDD. Why not Cupertino? We almost succeeded in getting in the Valco negotiations about 40 units, but as you all know, that was later voted down. Soon after, the Cupertino Rotary took on the challenge of partnered with Housing Choices and Charities Housing, and has successfully brought this new project with 19 IDD units to near fruition. Giving people challenged with IDD the opportunity to rent an affordable apartment is a powerful gift. Think about what it was like when you flew the nest many years ago. You moved out on your own. Recall the new sense of freedom you had. Recall also the opportunity that you had to make many more of your everyday choices by yourself, for yourself. Parents and teachers from Cupertino have helped these community members to become much more capable than was possible in the past. Now is your opportunity to honor them by awarding $3 million from the Affordable Housing Funds to the Mary Avenue Villas project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet and Cindy. Next we have Stephen Shar, followed by Stephen Kwan. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. Please allocate as much money as possible to the Mary Avenue Villas. This project has been going on and been in the works for far too long, and we really need to get moving on it and should be funded to the maximum amount possible. You know, the teacher housing on the Simeon project is also a great project. It's much newer. It will serve teachers from throughout the county, and really the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors should be allocating a lot more money to that project so we can concentrate money on the Mary Avenue Villas. And also providing the same amount of money for all housing units is really not that logical. The needs of the developmentally disabled residents and their income is very different than what a teacher or a staff member in the teacher housing and staff housing would make. And finally, I didn't write this down, but when parking was mentioned, personally, I think city-owned land should be used for projects like this. I don't know who would need those 80-something parking spaces on Mary Avenue. Certainly, the apartment complex should be providing parking for all its residents, and any future projects in that area should also have adequate parking off-street for their residents. So converting those parking spaces and using them for the Mary Avenue Villas should just be a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Next we have Stephen Kwan. I apologize for missorting your card earlier.
Nope, no problem. I wanted to ask you for your support for the Mary Villa housing. My son is on the autism spectrum, but he's been well supported in Cupertino. He's been through 4-H, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and graduated from Monte Vista. I'd really like him to be able to stay in the community that he's grown up in. That's it. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. And next we will move to those members of the public requesting to speak virtually. We have Ranjan Desai, Sujata Venkatraman, and Georgia Basil. Welcome, Ranjan.
Yeah, good evening, council members again. I really wanted to talk about this. This has been a surprise for all of us. There were tons of people who are against this in the Quinlan Community Center. There's all the community people are against this, and they, I'm really not against the intellectual disability and autism kids who really want to live there, and they should not be. They should live a dignified life. They should not be living in a cramped up place like this. There's just no place there for any apartments or any condominiums there at all. It's a road. It's a road. I mean, they can't live on the roads there, and you cannot, decrease the space on the roads, take off all the parking spaces there for people to live on the roads. This is not a dignified place for them to live. They should find a better place for them to live in a different place. I totally want them, to be living in a dignified place because they need them. They have to have a good place for them to live. This is absolutely not the place for them to live. And there's absolutely no place for even 2 buildings there, two apartments there. Forget about 40 condominiums there coming up. This is going to be like a bottleneck for all the traffic coming in there. It's going to endanger their lives. Yes, of course, they need help to live with their parents, or if they're living with their parents at home, that's the best way for them to do unless they find a better place for them to live. They need support. They don't want to be living independently and endangering their lives. It is not right. This is absolutely nonsense. There are so many people who are against this, and this is surprise. We have not in. If you have taken, I think they have written all the letters to you guys, the council members there, and you would have all their replies and their oppositions to this. This funding should not be allotted there. They should not be allowed to have it at all here at this place. There is a big place coming up on the Valco place. Take up that. It's a big whole acres and acres of land there. Why don't you provide them opportunity there to live in a dignified place there? This is not at all a place for them to live a dignified life. They need a place to be in the center, and the the city hall, the city, the main street, the place there, it's really good for them there. That's a good place for them to live, okay? Thank you, and hopefully, you do not approve this at all, and make the Valco, complete Valco place for them to live there. It's a very, very nice place, a very big place for them to live there. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Sujatha Venkatraman, followed by Georgia Basile. Welcome, Sujatha.
Thank you. My name is Sujatha Venkatraman. I'm the Executive Director at West Valley Community Services. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the staff for the detailed report and recommendation, the Housing Commission for supporting safety net services, such as the CARE program and the Haven to Home program that West Valley Community is running, supporting low-income communities in Cupertino, supporting other partner organizations through this funding recommendation, and especially bringing in affordable, inclusive housing through the Mary Avenue project. I hope the City Council will approve the Housing Commission recommendation and supporting the progress and safety net services and all the support that it will bring to community members in Cupertino. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujatha. Next we have Georgia Basile, followed by Rati Kartik, followed by Lisa. Welcome, Georgia.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. I'm Georgia Basile, Directing Attorney of Senior Adults Legal Assistance. We provide free legal services to Cupertino residents, targeting clients that are low income or at risk of abuse or loss of independence. We are a current human service grantee, and we thank you so much. Your funding supports expanded availability of our services to Cupertino seniors. Last year, at least 80% of the Cupertino clients we served were very low income. 57% were 75 or older, and 43% had a disability. We provide our services locally at monthly appointments at Cupertino Senior Center and by phone for clients that cannot leave their homes or that have emergencies. We are recommended for $18,000 to continue our funding and our services for next year by the Housing Commission and the staff, and we thank them for their recommendation. We address a range of matters impacting our clients' daily lives. For example, we assist clients with legal problems involving public benefits they rely on to meet their basic needs, Social Security, SSI, Medicare, and Medi-Cal. We assist clients worried about eviction, clients needing reasonable accommodations in their housing, or clients whose housing is otherwise in jeopardy. We assist clients that need to do basic planning for the future to help them age in place by appointing someone they trust to step in and manage their affairs when they are no longer able to do so. And regrettably, we continue to assist clients that are victims of elder abuse, physical or financial, usually by someone living in their homes or someone they know, such as adult children, grandchildren, caregivers, and tenants. And we are attorneys, so we go to court to get restraining orders under domestic violence for persons 64 or younger, or for elder abuse, persons 65 or older, to remove these abusers from our clients' homes so they can live in peace. We cannot charge fees for our services or accept fee-generating cases. The primary way we support our services is through grants like the one we receive currently from Cupertino. Your continued funding is more critical than ever in these challenging times to provide the highest level of services to your residents. So we hope the City Council will adopt the funding recommendation for SALA for $18,000 next year. And we do thank you so much for your current support. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. Next we have Rati Kartik and Lisa. Welcome, Rati.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to convey that please stop the funding for Mary Avenue Villas and reject the request for proposal. That place is a highly congested place and it's extremely narrow. As one of my friends told, it is like hardly able to build only 2 buildings or 2 apartments, where coming up with 40 is very, very cramping. And we do agree with having support for people suffering from domestic violence or children with autism or elderly people, but not making them live in putting them in a place where you can hardly build 2 buildings where 40 more needs to be built. So that's definitely not a good place for anyone to live like this. I think they all need a better place to live. And if you can allocate like Valco project or something like that place, that would be really helpful for them. So making them, because it's low affordable living, making them live in such a small cramped place doesn't seem reasonable. And I'm mostly concerned about the safety of children who bike to school. I have 2 kids, and they bike to school every day. And we moved to this very house only because we felt it's a safe place to live. But if this project is coming up, then it's extremely scary and it's a nightmare. Please stop this project and refuse the funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Rati. And our final speaker that requested to speak before the cutoff is Lisa. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Hi. I guess I first should mention that the suggestions that this particular type of housing would be better served at Valco. Valco may, even if they started building today, it would be, my guess, 10 years before anything could be available for these people that would like to live independently. So I don't think that's viable at all. I support the project. I can remember years ago, thankfully for Janet Van Zoren, because she had set up basically a field trip for people who were interested to go visit sites where there was this kind of living situation. And we went to a newer place in Mountain View. I mean, I remember it well, and it was years ago. But I remember the faces and the excitement of the residents who showed us their rooms, their apartments, and showed us all around the place, and were excited to talk about it. And, oh, I have to go. I'd like to talk to you more, but I've got to go to work. It was a good day, and it was exciting to see this. We also visited a single-family home in San Jose that had been adapted or laid out in a way that there were, I believe, 4, maybe 5 residents in it. And same thing, we visited with the residents, and their appreciation for having what they had was very well understood. It's time for Cupertino to have something like this. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this, and it may not be the ideal location, but if we wait for an ideal location, it will never happen. So I support this project, and I admire the people who have been fighting this for so many years, and they never give up. And I hope they get at least a piece of what they want, which is what we have offered now, the Mary Villas project. So that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Mayor, no additional speakers?
Okay, thank you. So we bring this back to the council. Vice Mayor Moore. So 5 minutes each person.
So for purposes of discussion, I move that we approve the recommended action with a modification that $3 million of BMR affordable housing funds be committed to Charities Housing, Mary Avenue. So I'm looking to see if I have a second.
Can you clarify that again? I'm trying to understand what that was.
Within the staff report, they're showing a commitment of $1.9 million to Mary Avenue and about $1.1 million to Eden Housing, if I'm understanding that correctly.
So you would like to take the Eden Housing piece away and put the total amount to the Mary Avenue project?
Correct.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so do we have a second for that? I'll second that. But I do have a question for staff. I heard the staff recommendation to the Housing Commission was different. And then the Housing Commission actually already decided to allocate more to the charities housing. And then the reason was the Wolf Road housing. I think their BMR portion won't start as soon. Could you clarify that?
I could. Thank you for that question. So yes, initially when staff brought a recommendation to the Housing Commission, the split was approximately $2 million to each project. In the end, the Housing Commission placed their priorities with the Mary Avenue Charities Housing Project, and it had a lot to do with project readiness. So with the Mary Avenue project, they currently have an application submitted, and so that's currently in progress, whereas the Wolf Road Educator Housing Project does not have an application submitted. And also that project would be applying for funds in the second phase of their construction, so it would be even further out, whereas the Mary Avenue need was much more immediate.
So my understanding is the county actually allocated about $24 million for the Wolf Road housing project. And it's a county project, so we do expect they are also seeking other potential grant funding for that.
That's correct. They're, in addition to seeking county funding, they're also applying to state funding sources, the ASIC funding source. This is for Wolf Road, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the first phase is teacher housing. Second phase is below market rate. So would the teacher housing in the first phase also include below market rate? Would this $1 million, if we allocate, be used for first or second phase?
Eden Housing Wolf Road is specifically applying for our funding for their second phase of construction. So I'll give a breakdown of their proposal really quickly. Their total proposal is for 249 units over 2 phases. The first phase is for 101 units. It consists of 34 low-income and 67 moderate-income units, and that is the teacher housing. The second phase, which is the phase that they are applying for, has 148 units. That contains 60 very low-income units, 86 low-income units, and 2 manager units. So it would not be the teacher housing.
Okay, so the $1 million, if we allocate, is for second phase, which actually, right now, even the first phase doesn't have a application submitted, so we don't know when the second phase might start.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And then for the Mary Avenue, could we possibly have a priority for the residents who either currently live in Cupertino or grew up in Cupertino, since it's the city project, so would we be able to have that?
Yes, so currently in our BMR waitlist system, there is a priority point system where you can be awarded points if you currently live in Cupertino, currently work in Cupertino, and are a public employee within Cupertino. And that basically places you higher in the BMR waitlist, gets you placed into a unit faster. So that is actually currently within the BMR system right now.
But if someone grew up in Cupertino but somehow currently live in San Jose, they won't get that priority.
We can try studying that. That would be a unique feature for a BMR waitlist system. We could study that.
The city could decide how to allocate, especially the IDD portion, I guess.
Right. I think, implementing such a thing, we'd probably have to study some fair housing impacts on that. But yeah, it could be something we study.
Okay. Yeah. So I understand I will allocating more. Is it possible? I think we would like to address the parking situation. So I spoke to someone involved. I said, is it possible the first floor could still have some parking, but then you lift the height of the building just like one person high, so we could possibly have more parking under Mary. If that were possible, I think I would really like to support more funding for them.
Yeah, we can certainly work with the developer and see if that is an alternative that's feasible for the project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any Councilmember Wang?
Yeah, I think quick questions. I would say the public was very surprised that this was put into the consent calendar and not a discussion item. Why was this put through the consent calendar instead of being discussed at council?
Yeah, I can answer that, Councilman Wong. It's just past practice. We've always had us on consent. Wasn't any particular reason for that, just because it's always been on consent.
Okay, we had a lot of letters and comments because of that. There's a backup in Mary Avenue. We have Westport, which may not have enough parking. We have events in the area that require more parking spaces. Hundreds of residents in the Mary Avenue area have written to oppose this project. Do not confuse that opposition with an opposition for IDD or BMR housing. I think they do support that. It's about the appropriateness of that location, the loss of parking. I tend to concur with the mayor if there's a way to actually place parking underneath and not take away that street, you would have a lot more support. This area is also quickly becoming a food desert and a retail desert as we don't have amenities in that place. And it's getting worse with every development project. So, and I do understand these are CDBG funds, and I'm not sure what conditions we can do to make sure that there is parking in that space, because when we campaigned in that area, there was massive opposition to this project, just so people know that.
Councilmember Furan.
So in having spoken with the applicants, it sounded in advance that they had reached sort of an agreement between each other with respect to how much they were going to need in order to be able to make each of their projects happen. And I'm a little reticent to upset that balance, so I would like some sort of description of what kind of impact changing this allocation would have to the Wolf Road project.
I can answer that question. So it's true that the city's commitments to affordable housing projects makes up a very small part of the funding stack. But in the application process, when they go out and seek funding from other sources like the state, the city's commitment at the beginning is kind of leveraged into making a more competitive application when they try to seek funds from the state or the county or other regional sources. So we try to support all projects in some way, right? Because a project that receives zero funding may be passed over, right, for funding from other sources.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. It does hurt the other project in a way that I don't think that we're necessarily examining. And if you could also describe the full breakdown of funding that Mary Avenue would be receiving, because not everything's coming out of the BNR fund.
Okay, I can describe that. So currently what is the Housing Commission's recommendation is to support the Mary Avenue project through 3 different funding sources. The first is through CDBG for the amount of $174,567.37. Next is through the permanent local housing allocation for $908,683. And then finally, through the BMR capital housing projects for $1,916,800. So a total of $3 million.
So I guess if the movement could clarify again exactly what the difference is between what she's wanting to do here and what's already in the books.
Through the mayor, so currently Charities Housing for Mary Avenue, that's $1.9 million, and then Eden Housing would be receiving about $1.1 million. And my proposal is to move all of that, because it's much harder to build the developmentally disabled housing, to move that to the Charities Housing.
Okay, project. I just wanted to make sure I understood that, and also that we all understand that there may be a consequence to the Simeon site project.
Through the mayor, I do have a question for what the remaining balance is for the below market rate fund after, were the $3 million to be allocated to the Mary Avenue project?
Sure. So the funding recommendations right now also account for a reserve for both administration of the below market rate program and enforcement of fair housing law and investigation into fair housing claims for the next 5 years. So even though what we're awarding out right now is for a total of $3 million out of the BMR fund, the actual balance is about $4.8 million, but the recommendation is to keep that amount of funding reserved for BMR administration and fair housing enforcement.
Also through the mayor, is it necessary that the administration, for instance, the Rise Housing or perhaps Project Sentinel is also coming through this fund, is it possible that that funding can come from the general fund? Is there anything that says that it has to be from this special revenue fund?
This is a question for you.
Through the mayor, Vice Mayor, yes, that is possible.
Thank you. Councilmember Mohan.
For the BMR affordable housing, capital housing projects, which is what we're talking about, the $3 million, which according to the report and the Housing Commission recommendation, is 1.9 for charities housing and almost 1.1 for Eden housing. What was rationale that went into it? If we did not fund Eden housing, what would be the repercussions?
So it's hard to predict, right? What would be the outcome of not funding them when they try to apply for funding from other sources? We just wanted to make sure that both projects had competitive applications when trying to seek funding from other sources. They try to leverage city funding as a part of their application to get funding from, say, the state, from the county, or from elsewhere. And so that was the rationale for having some of the funding also go to Eden as well.
And they were the only two applicants?
There were only two applicants for affordable housing projects currently,
For
yes.
this year.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Vice Mayor Moore.
So I do recall that Westport, the BMR portion of that project, had come to the council requesting $1 million, and we did not give that project the $1 million, and they still received adequate funding for it at the time. So I'm not entirely sure that this reallocation would be an impediment, and the county has not, since we had the Veranda project, have any Measure A funds allocated to providing more affordable housing in the city. So it is long overdue that we receive our share from the county.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's a county project, so it does not really rely on the city funding to make it a viable project. So a question, the BMR AHF fund right now, these two, for $3 million is under, this is a city fund, right? So there is no deadline of when we need to spend it. So we can possibly allocate 1.9 million to charities housing, and then the other 1 million pending on a better parking solution. And then it can come to the council, and then we can allocate that 1 million. So we can do that, right?
Mayor, I apologize for the interruption, but there appears to be a glitch with the video transmission, and the video has requested to break.
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So there is no time that we have to make a decision on the full 3 million today.
If I understand your question correctly, yes, that's correct. There is no time limit on this funding, it is our local funds. They would have to resubmit for additional funds if what you're proposing is to do a partial award, right? Through another separate NOFA process.
Do they have to resubmit if we can say the 1 million additional funding is on condition of providing more parking?
Yeah, I believe that would be a clear, more transparent path since the application did not call for that. So, we still have the funds, and the project's still in its beginning stages being evaluated. So I think
that's a viable.
It's a viable option, but we will recommend that you move forward with what the council feel like that's appropriate funding now, and reserve the remaining for the next round when the project has moved forward farther in the process.
So, Vice Mayor, would you agree to a friendly amendment on condition of creating more parking space for the extra 1 million?
I'm sorry, Mayor. No, my concern there is what you're suggesting is that you have ground floor parking and you build the residential units above it, if I'm understanding that correctly, which is going to create an access issue. So you're going to have individuals needing to walk up a full flight of stairs to get to their main living area, and then you're also increasing the height of the project. You're basically redesigning it from the dais, and I'm concerned about that.
Of course, I cannot redesign. That's why I'm asking to explore that option. And I think when I talked to one of the people of the applicant, they were willing to explore. It doesn't need to be an entire floor. You just need to fit a car. Council Member Mohan and Council Member Wang and Council Member Fruin.
Thank you, Mayor. My recommendation would be to move forward on this and not put any restrictions in terms of parking and so on. This is a long-standing project, as many speakers pointed out, and it still hasn't gotten off the ground. So why don't we go with it as it is? And as someone pointed out, maybe staff pointed out, it's going to take a few years to get to completion. So there will be other opportunities to figure out parking and so on. But this is an important project. It is something that's been debated on and deliberated on for so many years. We've got the funding almost intact. So I think we should do everything we can to move forward with the project.
Thank you. And Council Member Fruin?
Yeah, in follow-up to some of Vice Mayor Moore's comments earlier, I was going to offer, if you were interested in making the award to both projects and backfilling what we would want from the general fund for the other services, I would be okay with that.
So basically, through the mayor, you're looking at going back to the recommended action without any modification. Is that correct?
No, you were wanting to add additional funding to Mary Avenue, and I'm saying that we should do that, and we should do that from the funding that exists, that is restricted, and that if we need to continue to fill in for those funds, as Nikki described, we could do that from the general fund.
And that extra funding through the mayor would be to support what? So you're still saying keep the $3 million on the Mary Avenue project?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're suggesting that the general fund would be
for the other services that we were looking would need to occur over time, yes?
That's correct. Sorry. So just to clarify, I think what your recommendation is to add additional funding to the Mary Avenue project that is within the BMR balance that previously staff recommended be reserved for administration.
Correct.
For housing, and instead make a commensurate contribution to those services through the general fund.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Could you clarify how much additional funding you would like to add to the Mary Avenue project?
Whatever would bring the balance back.
1.1 mil.
Okay. Well, there's an additional $1.8 million in the BMR fund
Yeah.
that is currently reserved. So,
Councilmember Wong.
I was going to go back to Mayor Chow's point around parking. What can be done to mitigate the parking situation? We basically are taking city land and using it to build a housing unit onto that project, and we have hundreds of residents that are unhappy with that. I don't think they're unhappy with having, housing for IDD or housing for BMR. I think they're just, worried about what's being built at Westport. So, what are the parking mitigation measures that you have so far planned?
Yeah, the project, like I mentioned before, the project has just been submitted, so we're still in the process of evaluating the project and see what we can do to mitigate the concerns from the residents regarding parking. I don't have that answer for you tonight.
But what's the likelihood of a project that would not encroach onto that parking space?
I don't have an answer for you tonight. This project's still being evaluated. We should know shortly, but I don't have the answer for you tonight.
And can this project wait till we actually have an approval before funding?
So the recommendation of the Housing Commission actually is to commit BMR funds, meaning set them aside for these projects, but to authorize the actual award upon them receiving planning entitlement. So that would be essentially executing these loan agreements after they receive planning approval, which would address your concerns about development standards, things like that.
I think my concern's a little bit more nuanced. I think the question is, if the project is not going to be approved, then would the funding go back to the BMR funds? And I think the answer is yes. Is that correct?
Yes, staff would reserve the right to return the funds to the BMR balance if it is found that the project cannot get planning entitlement.
Okay. And the parking mitigation situation, even though you've heard from hundreds of residents about this issue, how is that factored into the discussion of the overall funding and project?
I don't know how it factors into overall funding project through the mayor, but it's part of the project evaluation process of any project we receive to look at all aspects of the design, including parking as well. So it's something that we're working with developers. We will be working with developers to see if there's a way to mitigate the on-street parking situation.
Okay, because the assumption every conversation we've had with the project folks is that you're not going to miss the parking, and the conversation with and hundreds of residents is that the parking is an issue with Westport, with what else is going on in those projects, that there is not enough parking. And so, I just want to make sure that message is clear, because it doesn't seem to be getting through to, from the residents, it doesn't seem to be that concern is being prioritized.
Yeah, I think the message is clear, and we communicate that to other developers in that area as well.
Yeah, and so I think when the council allocated that portion of the public right of way, separate that for IDD, it was unanimous support. But at the time, I didn't know. We didn't know the other side, the east side of the Mary, will also lose parking, and there will be now no parking on that side, in addition to the west side of Mary. And because that side will then be used for bike paths. And then we didn't know at the time that right now we have a request from the senior housing in the Westport to reserve some parking space on the street as permitted parking for them. So we have a lot more demand on parking, but then we are also taking away more parking than we anticipated earlier. So that's why, and if we want to ever address parking, we need to do it in this early stage, because we cannot, it's hard to change the design later. So if it's possible to adjust the design, I think many projects come to the council, they adjust the parking to mitigate concern or setback. So it's a common request from the council then that's what I want to explore. If the applicant can receive that message and come back with genuine effort to make an adjustment, then we can consider, that will increase cost. Therefore, we allocate more funding, justify more BMR funding, so to address the parking issue. So that's my intention. Vice Mayor Moore and Councilmember Wong, I think we are all out of our time.
Can I go quickly to Vice Mayor Moore? I would support Vice Mayor Moore's resolution if I knew there was a resolution on the there was her motion if there was a resolution on the parking issue. And that's where I'm at. But the bottom line is these funds aren't going to go anywhere. It's not going to change the allocation. It's not going to expire. So I would wish we would spend some more time addressing the parking issue than hurrying trying to get this funded.
Especially this is a city funding. There is no deadline on approving it even today. I know the other funds have deadline, but not this one. So Vice Mayor Moore.
Thank you. So I'm interested in hearing more about Councilmember Fruin's modification. If he has a chance to add on to what he was saying earlier, I'd like to understand a little bit better.
Sure. So the functional difference between the motion that's on the table and what I'm suggesting, and if you want me to make it as a substitute motion, I'd be happy to do that, is that instead of shifting dollars from the Eden application to the Mary Avenue application, you would instead add the additional dollars that are in the same amount, so to bring Mary Avenue to 3, from the additional dollars set aside for administration.
I think that makes sense because the staff report says the remaining $1.8 million would support administration for the next 5 years up to 2030. So that means we don't need the full amount right away. And then we likely will get more contribution of BMR funding. So we don't have to reserve administration for that 5 years.
Point of inquiry, right? Is it 1.083 million or 1.8 million? We keep getting different numbers. I just want to make sure we're saying the right number.
The remaining of the BMR fund is 1.8, but what's allocated as proposed is 1.083.
Yeah, okay, just making sure.
So pardon, through the mayor, to clarify then, so the suggestion is that Charities Housing, Mary Avenue, would receive the $3 million. You still want the Eden Housing to be at the 1.083?
Correct.
Okay. So I would like to modify the original motion to approve the recommended action with the modification that $3 million of BMR affordable housing funds be committed to the Charities Housing Mary Avenue project, along with the $1,083,200 to the Eden Housing Wolf Road project.
Point of inquiry, Vice Mayor Moore, through the mayor. From where? Which budget item? Where were you pulling this money from?
From the BMR affordable housing funds.
So $1 more million for Charities Housing, and then we have a $0.8 million remaining in BMR.
Correct.
Could we, what do you consider about the condition on potential parking so that they can at least make an effort to address potential more parking space?
I agree with Vice Mayor Moore's original commentary with respect to not wanting to overcondition these funds, if only because I don't want us to design the project from the dais.
I'm not designing, but then making a strong request that they propose option for.
I think the strong request has been
more
heard.
Parking.
I don't think there's a lot of teeth in that strong request on the parking issue. I mean, we got hundreds of residents we knocked on doors who were very much opposed to losing their parking.
Yeah, I think we need to make some compromise here. So we allocate more funding, but then there should be some condition on that.
Pardon, through the mayor, I don't think that there's land within that project to add parking spaces.
I would like them to figure that. I don't know. We are not designing it now. So I would like to make the request that understanding creating more parking will likely increase cost. So we are willing to commit $1 more million if they make an effort to explore parking solutions. And I don't know the parameter. Of course, we cannot design it here. They are the designer, but this is a request to make that and then come back for the additional funding.
Through the mayor, so we've already allocated the property to this project. It would be a matter of city staff seeing if along the east side that there was some accommodations that could be made in that area, and along perhaps the north side of the Westport project as well, to see what could be done there, because there are parking restrictions regarding like overnight parking and other issues, but I don't feel that it's the responsibility of Eden Housing to, after working on this, not Eden, but for the Mary Avenue, the Charities Housing Project, after 15 years of working on this, I just don't think this is the time for them to have to modify their plan in order to accommodate what the city would need to be looking into design-wise, and that has been the process for many years, that Mary would have that entire parcel for their housing and not have this late request that they modify. So I think staff can look into other areas out on Mary for the parking question.
Right now, as proposed, the east side of Mary Avenue parking will be taken away, replaced by bike path. I would hate to say, I don't want to take away parking, therefore there's no bike path. That will be the other option. So I would like to see if we could create parking, then we can accommodate bike paths too, right? So, okay. So I think we should vote.
I want to add one more comment. I mean, if that site is not the right site for housing, for BMR, I mean, look at the acreage on that. I mean, that's not even.
Okay, so let me do this. I would like to make a substitute motion, which is the same as previous motion, where we take the staff recommendation for, okay, I'll just make a substitute motion. We take the staff recommendation and allocate the same way, which is from the CTBMR fund, 1.9 million for charities housing and 1.08 for Eden Housing. And then we consider to allocate 1 extra million from the remaining 1.8 million BMR funding to charities housing on the condition that they explore potential ways to increase the parking stalls on their side of the project. So that's my motion.
I would second that.
We've done 30-second comments for this motion. Yeah.
Okay. I'm withdrawing my original motion, and I'm making a substitute motion. So this will be like the first substitute now, since the first one is removed, so that we approve the recommended action with the modification that 3 million BMR affordable housing funds be committed to the Charities Housing Mary Avenue project, and 1,083,200 be allocated to the Eden Housing Wolf Road project.
Second.
Through the
sorry,
mayor, Vice Mayor Moore, so with no conditions on parking?
Correct. The city will have the opportunity to work on the parking, and they can be directed to.
So are we still giving direction that they should work on housing out of goodwill? Or can we still add that direction? Not on condition on funding, but still a direction to provide more housing, to explore more parking stalls.
Through the mayor, that would be something for staff to work on. This is city property for how the parking can be drawn in there and allocated.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. And Mayor, yes, we're absolutely will be exploring additional options to provide more on-site parking, on-street parking, if that's possible.
Yeah, so on-site if possible and on-street. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's vote.
Which one are we voting on?
I believe we're voting on Vice Mayor Morris.
City Clerk, could you please repeat the motion?
Yes, Moore moved and Fruin seconded to make a substitute motion to approve the recommended action with the modification that $3 million of BMR affordable housing funds be committed to the Charities Housing Mary Avenue project and $1,083,200 be allocated to the Eden Housing Wolf Road project.
So it's actually a little bit more than 1 million additional because it was 1,916,800. So now it's 3 million whole, right? Okay, just want to clarify that.
Is that your motion,
I
Vice
think
Mayor?
she said 3 million for the Mary Avenue project.
Yeah.
And 1.08 for the Eden housing. Right?
So, Vice Mayor, is that what your motion was? Yes. So.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Vote.
Vote.
The motion carries with Wong voting no.
Should we take a break?
Yeah. Let's take a 5-minute break. And so come back at 9:20. Okay, so we would continue the meeting. The next item is direct staff on commission review of Stevens Creek Boulevard corridor vision study.
Very good. Mayor, Chad Mosley, Director of Public Works. Thank you, Council, for listening to this item tonight. I don't have a presentation, just a very quick discussion of this. A couple of the city council members had expressed an interest in the Stevens Creek Corridor Vision Study being reviewed by the Planning Commission instead of the Bike Ped Commission. As stated in the staff report, either of those commissions would be a reasonable choice. And staff is simply asking for direction tonight as to which commission to take the study to prior to returning to council. Very simple.
Thank you. So our option would be, it could be none of the commissions, just go to city council. It could be one of the commissions. It could be both commissions, right?
It could be whatever city council directs us to tonight. I do not recommend taking it to 2 commissions because that could create confusion with the public, especially if 2 commissions provide different direction. Additionally, that's kind of a duplicative effort and probably not the best use of government resources by doubling up. But council can do what they want with this.
Okay, any questions from the council members? Okay, then I have a question. So, Chad, so the council, when I think this was in 2019, the council adopted a resolution entering into this study, right? And thank you for providing that original resolution. And in that resolution, this study is mainly meant for studying a grade separated transit option and with potential street gap improvements. That's in the resolution.
My understanding with the original intent of the study was to provide kind of a united design effort, planning effort for high-capacity transit along that corridor. I think that was what the original intent was.
Okay, so that corridor is also covered by the Heart of the City specific plan, right?
The portion within
The portion,
Cupertino
yeah. So if any streetscape or any of those will be covered by the Heart of the City specific plan, if there is any adjustment that needs to be made.
And I'm not the most knowledgeable about the Heart of the City specific plan, and that would probably be our Community Development Department. My understanding is the Heart of the City, for the most part, talks about planning uses adjacent to the corridor, as well as certain aesthetics of like trees and sidewalks along the corridor.
Yeah, thank you. So the original intent wasn't really to study bike path, even though the study did include a bike path section. So I just want to clarify that, because I think we got a lot of public comments that seems to think this is somehow a bike path corridor study, but it's not that.
Yeah, the study
is part
is,
of the study.
Yeah, the study's focused on transportation. That includes bike ped as well as high capacity transportation or transit. It was mostly focused on transportation. There are some aesthetic items that were brought up in the study as well.
Yeah.
It was mostly focused on transportation.
So the responsibility for bike and ped does say transportation matters, such as this and that. It even talk about parking, but anything that's related to parking, we usually don't bring that to bike path, unless it's parking involved with a bike path project, right?
That's correct. I don't think we typically take neighborhood
permit parking.
Yeah, I don't think we do that typically to the bike.
Yeah, even though parking word, the word is mentioned in the Bike Path Commission's responsibility. Right?
I'm not sure what the intent there is. That was written in a long time ago. I think what they meant was probably parallel parking and how it affects parallel parking, but I'm not sure.
And when it's related to a specific bike path design, I suppose?
Potentially, yes.
And then the general plan includes a mobility element. So that mobility element includes some policies on transit and regional effort for transit.
There is a mobility element, yes. And again, I think Ben would probably be better off talking to that than I would, but I imagine it talks about transit and other items.
And the Planning Commission reviews and approves and helps to check our implementation of that plan, that element also.
Yeah, the Planning Commission does provide input on the general plan.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other question from the council? Council Member Mohan and Council Member Fruin.
Director Mosley, why was this issue brought up before council today? Is it time sensitive? Is it something that we need to decide today? Because and maybe I can ask maybe the city attorney or city manager. This is already on the future on a TBD list. The discussion for Stevens Creek Boulevard corridor vision study. So it's showing up on future agendas. It is on the TBD. So why are we discussing it today? Is my question.
And maybe I can answer that. I mean,
maybe I can answer that because this is eventually coming to the council. I think the staff said that it will be likely they will reconvene some work in July, so they are planning to put this on the council agenda in June. And whether this needs to go to the commission or not, it's really optional. But then it was very surprising to me that a transit study is already put on the Bike Path Commission agenda. That was surprising to me. And in fact, it's somehow on tomorrow's Bike Path Commission agenda. That was continued from the last one. And then we had question from the Planning Commission on why it's not coming to them. So I heard the staff initially planned a joint commission meeting, but somehow it becomes separate. So I think I understand the staff's point that we don't want this to go to two commission to preserve staff time. If it's going to any commission, I thought, or just one commission, should it be planning or bike path? I think it's unclear. I think it needs council direction. Because from my reading, when the council initially entered into the study, and even when I look at the content of the study, which I can share later, this is clearly a planning commission issue. But the staff somehow disagree. They think it's bike path. So there is a disagreement. And we need council direction to clarify. Yeah.
Okay.
And the timing is, if it's going to commission, likely it's May, so that it can come to the council in June.
It's also going to the Bike Ped Commission tomorrow, right?
The item is currently scheduled for the Bike Ped Commission tomorrow. If council directs us to go to the Planning Commission instead, we will basically cancel that item at tomorrow's meeting.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, I was going to say that in December 17th, the council meeting, we had tried to, and this is in the TBD area, but it's relevant to this, that's why I bring it up, that all transportation projects and added lane reductions should fall under the Planning Commission. And we've had that agenda item held back. That's also another reason as to why we're addressing this here.
That's true. If we had addressed that, it's been 2 months since we had a direction from the council. If we had amended the Planning Commission responsibility already, this is not even an issue we have to discuss.
That's the challenge.
Yeah. So let's go to public comment then.
Yes, Mayor, I have 6 requests to speak from in Community Hall. That takes us to 18 minutes. And I now see 3 requests to speak virtually. So that would be 27 minutes total. Oh, now I see 5 requests to speak virtually. So that's 33 minutes.
Okay, it's already 9. It's already 9:30, and I don't want to cut anyone's time, but if you can shorten your comment, if someone has made a similar comment, I would really appreciate if you can shorten the time. Thank you.
Okay, and please submit your request in the next 9 minutes. So we have Harry Neal, followed by Jennifer Griffin, followed by Beck Polchernetti. Welcome, Harry.
Good evening, Council. My name is Harry Neal. I'm a local transit advocate and a member of VTA Citizens Advisory Committee, but I'm here in my personal capacity today. One of the issues that has been raised by Council is what commission to send this study to. I think it is worth noting that in the city of Santa Clara, it was sent to the Bike Ped Commission. And since so much of this project is regarding bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, it makes sense to send it to the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission. And the resolution that the city of Cupertino had signing on to this project in 2019, it explicitly disallowed lane reductions. So the point that Councilmember Wong made regarding anything that would study lane reduction be referred to Planning Commission, that would not apply here. Regardless, I think that this project is extremely, extremely important to the safety of everyone in our community. Stevens Creek is arguably the most important corridor in all of Santa Clara County. And any delay on this project means that the incredibly vital safety features outlined in the recommended plan will not be implemented for at least 6 months should there be any changes to it. At this time, there are approximately 20 deaths per year on Stevens Creek in or around Cupertino. That means in 6 months, there will be somewhere around 8 or 9 deaths because of the delay. Please make sure that this project does not get delayed, because any death is one too many. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Next, we have Jennifer Griffin, followed by Beck Poltronetti, followed by Stephen Scharf. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. This whole process of Bike and Ped and what they're representing in the city and what this corridor study was trying to do is really, really worrisome. I attended and I spent hours in the last 2 years going to the multiple meetings from the Stevens Creek corridor. I live within 1/4 mile of Stevens Creek Boulevard. I've always been very, very concerned about what is happening along Stevens Creek Boulevard. Bike and Ped is not bike and ped and car. Okay, I saw a lot of bike and ped in operation at a lot of these meetings, and I was really led to wonder about some of their outside influences. I do not think that they are always representing Cupertino's issues. They have become too involved in things outside of Cupertino. If they want to become bike and ped and car, that's fine. But I do think that this corridor study results, which I have gone through multiple times, should be presented to the Planning Commission. It's its rightful place. I've been coming here since 2003. Transportation has always been handled by the Planning Commission. It is the second most important committee after the City Council. Bike and Ped should give information, as perhaps we need to have safety group too, but I really don't, I think Bike and Ped has really gone off the rails, and I was completely aghast at the August 2024 Stevens Creek Advisory Committee meeting that was held in these chambers, and there were 50 people that showed up representing Bike and Ped and other groups demanding that one lane be closed on Stevens Creek Boulevard for bus rapid transit. We never talked about that in those meetings with the consultant groups. Yes, we talked about it a little bit, but no one ever explained that they wanted to reduce one lane down the road. That is that is an idiotic. You know, most of the people in this city drive. That's what adults do. If you can't, yeah, you can ride a bike. Okay, I take a lot of people in my family around in cars, and I don't want to be called that I'm an idiot because I don't ride a bike. Okay, that's fine. I really think we need to get a grasp on reality here. I think that this, and believe me, the previous 2 years, previous City Council said nothing about this.
Thank you,
Goes
Jennifer.
to PC
That is your time.
or City Council.
Next, we have Beck Poltronetti, followed by Stephen Scharf, followed by Peggy Griffin. Welcome, Beck.
Hello, my name is Beck Poltronetti. I'm a Cupertino resident, and I bike to school every day. The Stevens Creek Boulevard Corridor Vision Study should be presented to the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission and not the Planning Commission, and here's why. 1, cars are the largest source of emissions in our county. We know the dangers of climate change, but it's not just about that. As tires wear away, they release rubber microplastics, which have been found in our waterways, food, and even our bodies. One of the best ways to reduce microplastics and air pollution is to reduce vehicle miles traveled, which can only happen when people have realistic alternatives to driving. And one of the easiest ways to do that is protected bike lanes, which is one of the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission's main missions. Council members, if you care about the well-being of our community's environment, please present the study to the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission and let them fulfill their mission and get more people onto bikes. 2, I have gone to 3 schools in this area, Stevens Creek Elementary, Kennedy Middle School, and Monte Vista High School, and kids bike to all of them. Every day, several hundred kids bike to Monte Vista, including me. They should have access to safe transportation and not be forced to bike unprotected along dangerous roads. I ride my bike to school every day because it's good for me and the planet. But I'm scared for my own safety on roads like Stevens Creek. I fear because at any moment, a car moving at 4 times my speed that I couldn't possibly avoid could make one wrong turn and shatter my bones as I ride unprotected along the road. Council members, if you care about the health and safety of the children in our community, please present the study to the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission, as they know what to do to keep kids like me and everyone's children and grandchildren, including yours, safer from cars. 3. Protected bike lanes and getting people out of cars significantly improves traffic flow and general road safety. We have seen that high-quality bike facilities improve experience for all users, not just cyclists, because they reduce traffic, conflicts, and more efficiently use road and parking space, which means everybody wins. Transportation is not a zero-sum game, and it is possible for everyone to benefit. So, council members, this is my final plea as a resident of Cupertino to you. If you care about the quality of life of the members of our community, please present the study to the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission and let them do their job of making Cupertino a better place for everyone to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Beck. Next we have Stephen Scharf, followed by Peggy Griffin, followed by Seema Linskog. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, speaking for myself, I was reading today the latest draft, as well as the 2019 resolution, which I signed actually, and Mayor Chow also voted. It was unanimous. I think the current plan that I read today, it's a good first attempt. It needs a lot of work, especially to benefit Cupertino residents, workers, and students. So we specifically, in 2019, included the 280 corridor in addition to Stevens Creek, because we believe that it would be much more practical to put high quality mass transit in the 280 median, just like you have BART in the median of 580, BART in the median of 280 in San Francisco, and VTA light rail in the median of 87 and a short part of 85. It's a lot less expensive. It's a lot more likely to ever be built. I think this dual corridor that they talk about in the study is completely impractical. There would never be enough money to build two sets of mass transit, one on Stevens Creek and one in the median of 280. The draft plan also states residents, business, and visitors would be served by a stress-free and enjoyable walking and biking environment on Stevens Creek Boulevard. Well, as a cyclist, and I happened to ride my bike to San Jose just 2 weeks ago, there is no way you're going to make cycling on Stevens Creek enjoyable, even with a protected bike lane. You're going to have cars whizzing past you at 35 or 45 miles an hour just a few feet away from you. So myself and my family, we take two routes to go to downtown San Jose or Willow Glen. Both of them are roughly parallel to Stevens Creek Boulevard. They're on quiet streets, many of them with bike lanes, and it's much safer and more pleasant for cyclists to go that way. I don't know if any members of the VTA task force have ever actually ridden from Cupertino to San Jose like I and my family have done. So I hope the council will look at the study and make appropriate recommendations that are great for Cupertino and its residents and its students. And I hope you can communicate changes to the task force. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Next we have Peggy Griffin, followed by Seema Linskog. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you. Can I use the overhead?
Yes, it should be available.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Chow, Vice Mayor Moore, council members, staff. Ideally, you should present this to both the bike ped and the planning and city council. This is how important it is to have multiple eyes. I don't understand why you're limiting it. If you have to choose, I choose planning. The Stevens Creek Boulevard Corridor Vision Study is a massive undertaking that, if implemented in Cupertino, will have drastic impacts on the roads, the traffic, businesses along Stevens Creek, in addition to bike and pedestrian changes. Also, Cupertino would lose control over decisions that impact our residents, our roads, and require significant financial and possibly staff resources. This must have significant review and public hearings. I'd like you to reaffirm that transportation and mobility fall under the Planning Commission. Direct staff to bring all the current and future transportation projects to Planning Commission. If it involves roads, I'm all for bike ped, but they do look a different eye. You need two looking at it differently to cover all the things. Direct staff to present the Stevens Creek Boulevard Corridor Vision Study to the Planning Commission. And when it's taken, there's a lot of documents missing. At least it felt that way when I read it. It mentioned Appendix B, the preliminary analysis. So there must be an Appendix A also. The council report dated in 2019, the council resolution, and I felt when I read it that there were plans already made that I didn't see. Which intersections? What roads? And it talks about removing a lane all the way down Stevens Creek. So this is not what people want. I understand protected bike lanes, I understand bike ped, but this is cars, and I think planning needs to look at it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Next we have Seema Linskog, and then we'll move to those requesting to speak virtually. Welcome, Seema.
I'd like to use the overhead too.
It should be working.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Chow, Vice Mayor Moore, and council members, I'm a planning commissioner, but today I'm speaking as myself, as a resident. This agenda item, it's actually really interesting how it came about. I mean, it's really a power grab by Santosh Rao, the chair of the Planning Commission, looking to expand the role of the Planning Commission by eliminating the Bike Ped Commission. Let's call it what it is. Mr. Rao has a well-documented history of hostility to cyclists in our city. He has made multiple statements many times in public that the city should focus on the needs of cars and car drivers over the needs of cyclists. The most shocking thing was the email that he sent today to the city council. It's really quite amazing because he says he writes it as a resident, but it's impossible to ignore that Santosh Rao, the resident, is pushing for an extraordinary expansion of the powers of Santosh Rao, the chair of the Planning Commission. He can say he's talking as himself, but that is clearly unethical, no matter how much lipstick you put on that pig. To make things much worse, he included a long list of examples of planning commissions in neighboring cities taking up transportation projects, 22 examples, in fact. The problem is that every single one of these 22 examples is a lie. I looked them up. I researched them, every single one of them. You can go through them. I will share copies of this with you guys. I welcome you guys do your own research. Every single one of these is made up. There was no meeting on those days, or they didn't cover those topics, or both. I don't know how he came up with that list, but it's quite extraordinary. I've never seen anything like that in the 10 years that I've been talking to the city council. The truth is, there's not a single planning commission in any of our neighboring cities that handles transportation issues. They keep their focus strictly on land use issues, and their bike ped commissions focus on transportation issues. The truth is, the Cupertino Bike Ped Commission has been the place where transportation issues are discussed with public input, with public participation. So I want to ask the City Council today, are we going to allow such an unethical and dishonest presentation of the facts? And honestly, I mean, it's like there's no precedent for doing this in any of the cities around us. There's no rationale, there's no justification for stripping transportation away from the Bike Ped Commission and giving it to the Planning Commission. And if this is the justification, then it's a really, really dishonest and unethical one. So I ask you to reject this unjustifiable power grab and let the Bike Ped Commission continue to handle bike ped transportation.
Thank you. That ends your
transportation.
Time.
Thank you.
And then we will move to those requesting to speak virtually.
Oh, and I have copies.
We have San R, Luis Sadati, Tracy K. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I find it interesting to have to follow the previous speaker. I actually recommend that this item go neither to the Bike Ped Commission, nor the Planning Commission, nor the City Council. And why do I recommend that? Because none of the cities in the corridor have actually placed this item on their City Council agenda. I have in fact attended the Stevens Creek Corridor meetings for most of the sessions that have occurred in the past 2 years. And as the sessions started to wind down towards the end, it became apparent that there wasn't enough funding to continue this item from each of the cities. And if you look at the agendas across the councils of the other cities that are part of the corridor, none of them have put this on the agenda. So why should Cupertino be the first? Why should Cupertino always lead in putting these projects ahead of these other cities? My recommendation is to table this item to your future agenda list at the very bottom of your list and wait till all of the other cities in the corridor have heard this item, understand if there is joint funding commitment from the other cities in the corridor, and not act until you actually ascertain that there is funding and commitment from other cities in the corridor and what that funding and commitment is for. The second thing that I want to add is, as a part of tonight's motion, you actually have the opportunity to amend the agenda to not direct this to either bike ped or planning, but instead to direct that planning hear the mobility element of the general plan. And so any transportation related projects be taken to planning in addition to bike and ped. If we can take CIP projects to all of the commissions, I think transportation is an important enough charter that it can go to 2 commissions. I have never in fact stated something should not go to bike and ped. We welcome the input of bike and ped, and I think transportation has its role in bike and ped, and it has its role in the planning commission. So I urge you tonight, amend the motion. Do not move this forward to either commission. Do not move this forward to the council, but instead direct the planning commission hear items of relevance to the mobility element. Thank you.
Thank you, San. Next we have Louise Sadati, followed by Tracy Kay. Welcome, Louise. Louise, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I have to. Okay. Honorable City Council, I am Louise Sadati, a 38-year-old Cupertino senior resident, car driver, and walker. I think it's interesting that what Santosh just said right now is very different than his previous statements on email, and now it's a different a conversation that he's making. So who knows what he'll say next? I really would like you to preserve the Bike Ped Commission at its jurisdiction and direct it to review and give input on the Stevens Creek Boulevard Corridor Vision Study. It is important that there is a dedicated commission to protect the vulnerable bikers and pedestrians in Cupertino who must share the road with the much bigger and faster cars, vans, and trucks, which weigh 2,500 to 5,000 pounds. The Bike Ped Commission is essential in increasing the safety for walkers and bikers in Cupertino, including in Stevens Creek Boulevard. Please protect the walkers and bikers in Cupertino by preserving the Bike Ped Commission with its jurisdiction and its unique and important mission. It's not just that the Planning Commission is busy with land use already. No planning commission in any of our neighboring cities has jurisdiction over transportation. It's just not appropriate. No planning commission in any of our neighboring cities has jurisdiction over transportation. And contrary to what Santosh said, I think that the Bike Ped Commission is well within its jurisdiction and expertise to review the corridor. And Stevens Creek has one of the highest number of fatalities and serious injuries in the city. And we need a dedicated bike ped commission to focus on making safer for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Next we have Tracy Kay, followed by Lisa, followed by Michael Wong. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for your time, and I'll try to make my comments really quick. I first off wanted to address a previous comment. It is absolutely customary for planning commissions near us to discuss transit issues. Both Los Altos and Palo Alto have joint planning transportation commissions. That is absolutely a planning commission that discusses transit issues, and I follow those meetings. They sometimes have the VTA attend. I also think it has been pretty clearly established during this meeting that the agenda item was not determined by any individual like San Rao, but by the mayor. Personally, I did think this is a good opportunity to raise the fact that last year, City Council or several City Council members did ask to agendize the addition of transit to the Planning Commission scope, which technically would have solved this issue. And I think it'd be great going forward if we could find a way to build a framework so that we don't have to spend council time individually opining on one-off transit projects and what commission they go to, but rather just create a rule that helps assign them moving forward. I also think that it is okay for two commissions to hear an item. I think the purpose of the commissions is not necessarily to exclusively hear an item, but to provide different perspectives on the same item. So for example, VTA will often route topics past multiple commissions. So forcing the item to one commission, I think unnecessarily politicizes it. But, I do specifically want to reiterate that I think that having transit related projects come past the Planning Commission makes a lot of sense. It is done in other cities. And I absolutely would like that to come off the TBD list and actually get agendized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. Next we have Lisa, followed by Michael Wong. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. So following all of these previous comments, I may sound scattered, but I'm just going to try to make the best use of my time. I find it interesting. One of the things is the number of deaths are being discussed, yet no one is talking or has presented data that says these are all bicycle deaths or all bike and ped deaths. I can guarantee you there are people in automobiles that are dying on Stevens Creek. So I really, this should be a holistic thing. We're never gonna get rid of cars. Biking will be scary for some and not for others. And frankly, there are a lot of bikers who do not obey the rules and create problems for drivers in cars. I have experienced it and I have seen it. So it's not one against the other, it's trying to merge things. And so, I believe Stevens Creek, let's think about how many driveways there are in between traffic signals or no traffic signals. There's numerous driveways. So you're also not just talking where if, as Stephen Scharf had suggested, doing it something on a roadway that does not have all of these ins and outs and arrows and U-turns and et cetera, as Stevens Creek does, you'd be having less confusion and options where things could go awry. So Stevens Creek is just inherently a bad place to be when you're trying to get somewhere. You've got people on phones, you've got people riding bikes inappropriately, you've got drivers that are not paying attention, you've got not very many walkers, quite frankly, and it really deserves everyone's attention. Let's go to this if, but I can't remember who brought it up. Other people aren't talking about this because there's no funding to do it. And we have very little time and money to waste in our own city. So I encourage joint commission meetings. I think we've had some in the past that have been really productive. And then there's not a back and forth afterward. And then if it goes to council, they have a better, clearer view of what's going on with everyone. I really wish that we'd have more study sessions. It seems like study sessions have gone off the radar of staff or whoever decides how we're going to do this. We used to have more, and they were very productive and informative.
Thank you, Lisa. That is your time. Next, we have Michael Wong. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, hello, council members and staff. I am a resident of Cupertino for 22 years, and having grown up here, I really want the Stephen Creek corridor to be safe for everybody, as the previous commenter said. But if we really think about what causes deaths on that corridor, like just imagine a sidewalk by itself. How many people die just walking on a sidewalk? Well, I would think not a lot of people. But if you, let's say, add a bicycle lane, maybe it goes up a little bit, but not that much. You know, bicycling is pretty safe, all things considered. But what happens when you add a car to the mix? Then it seems like all the deaths happen. So it seems obvious to me that to lower the amount of deaths on that corridor, you would have to just discourage that sort of car use, right? I mean, like the less cars there are, it seems like the less deaths there are. Like you never hear about a bicycle on Stephen Creek just like crashing into something that's not a car, or a car that crashes into another one, right? That seems like the mode of accident. On the other hand, I really think that this should go to the Bike and Ped Commission. The comments from Sam, I think that, can we really, if what the other commenter alleged is true, can we really trust what he says? I mean, if that's true, then he's shown a willingness to lie to people on the council. So I'm just not sure about that sort of thing. So I don't know. I'm kind of worried about that sort of thing. So yeah, that's my comment. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Michael. Mayor, no additional requests to speak?
Okay, let's bring it back to the council. I have a presentation that I'd like to make first, so I will share my slide. So we would then make comment and 5 minutes each, I guess. Yeah. So.
Pardon, through the mayor, I have a procedural question. So this agenda item is to simply direct staff on commission review of the Stevens Creek Boulevard Corridor Vision Study. It doesn't sound like we are going to be or should be getting into the substance of that study at this time. We're simply having a direction to send it back. Or is it okay for us to get into the actual study? Because I've served on the VTA Policy Advisory Committee, had this on its agenda last week, and I also have served on the Stevens Creek Corridor Vision Study, which met in December 18th, and directed that it would come to the city councils for comment. So I'd like to know what our, just stay in our lane here for this item, and what would that look like?
I do think that the item is relatively narrow, and I think the future agendas item indicates that this will be coming back to the City Council. And so I think the real call of the question of this agenda item is which commission it should next go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If the information that you are thinking would inform that decision, which commission, that would make sense. But if instead it is getting into the perspective of the council members, I think that should be saved for another date.
And also through the mayor, did I hear correctly that it's scheduled for the Bike Ped Commission this week already?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. Understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, 5 minutes. Yeah. So, on this slide is the 2019 resolution, and it's very clear the study is meant to study grade-separated high-capacity transit concept, and then multimodal transit supportive corridor. And then the council gave direction to study to improve transit efficiency and streetscape improvements along the corridor. And bike ped does say city transportation matters, but then from the context, it's one would understand that means transportation matters related to bike and paths, just by bicycle and pedestrian traffic. Just like parking is mentioned there, it's meant to be parking related to a specific bike path project. And this study is nothing about safety issues because the city has already completed Vision Zero plan and the road safety plan to address safety issues. Plus, we have 2016 bike master plan, 2018 pedestrian master plan, and in the process of developing another one. So putting this on the bike path actually sidetrack the entire purpose of the study, which is to study transit concept. And planning permission is meant to provide citywide planning, not just land use. The entire general plan has many sections. Plus, the Planning Commission also approved part of the city-specific plan, which covers the corridor. And this study, it talks about streetscape, the width of a sidewalk, the trees being planted on the plan. This falls completely within the Planning Commission's purview. And after the council maybe accepted the recommendation of that's mentioned in the study, maybe the city council identifies some bike path related project, then that project would go to bike path. And some of the action, when it's implemented, it will go to bike path. But the planning stage is supposed to be done at the Planning Commission. I know someone mentioned the list of items that's from other Planning Commission agenda. Maybe they may or may not have happened on a specific date specified. However, this list of items are commonly seen in other Planning Commission in other cities. I actually took the time to look into the Muni Code of many of these cities mentioned. None of them mention transportation, but they consider many transportation-related items in Planning Commission. And now, next I will go into the scope of the corridor. The corridor vision as specified in the study is create sustainable, it means we want green space, we want shade, sorry, that typo, and native wildlife plants and enjoyable public space, access to transit. This is always in the scope of Planning Commission, not bike path. And then if you look at the table of content, there are multiple sections. Yes, it talks about walk and bike infrastructure. That's just a portion of the entire plan that's being considered. But this is not at all a bike path plan. And if you look in the plan, it talks about bus transit speed, reliability, and then even in the bike path section, it talks about shaded tree, right-of-way constraints, should have an enjoyable experience. And if you look at the action summary of even the summary for bike path infrastructure, only one item is about bike path, but the others are widen sidewalk, plant shade trees, install refugee islands, and street lighting for pedestrian. So this is all planning, under planning purview, so I cannot see in any way this would be put on bike path. It really mislead the public about, like what we have seen in the public comment, it mislead the public about what's the purpose of the vision study. It's not safety of bike path, it's transit concept. Does that make sense for the city, and what will be involved if we would like to implement? That should be the focus. And that's, I think we need the feedback from planning about any of these action items, whether it's feasible in our general plan, if we would like any commission to consider. So that's my portion. Thank you.
Is it a motion or
that's my comment. Would you like to make a motion to continue? Vice Mayor?
I do want to point out, because members of the public are requesting that there be protected bike lanes. We've already approved of protected bike lanes all the way past Anza College, and these are Class 4 protected lanes. The other cities are way behind us on this. Councilmember Wong and I both served on the Planning Commission. Personally, I would send this to, since it's already scheduled for the Bike Commission, have it stay on the schedule for the Bike Commission to comment, and then also send it to the Planning Commission. I'd like to hear what everyone has to say about it, particularly when you get into the attachments and the costs, and think about in terms of this project, like $1.75 billion. That's $23 million per year to have this elevated transit line or the rail line there. Light rail. So that's $23 million per year. We've got our hopper at about $4 million, which takes care of the last mile issue. So I'd like to hear what both of those commissions have to say about this. So my motion is that we direct staff that the commission review includes the bike ped is already scheduled, and include the planning commission, so we can hear about what both have to say about this project. And I really don't think this should be such a long discussion matter. And I think that we could have already had this directed to the Planning Commission and the Bike Ped Commission without having this discussion here. Having served on the Planning Commission, the purview is literally every part of the general plan, which includes the mobility element. So there was no, I don't see that this should have been an issue that we're having to take up this much time about it. Thank you.
Wong, second for the purposes of discussion. But I actually disagree with some of the comments. I would say it actually should not go to any of the commissions at this moment. It would be where I stand, but I will second your motion.
Yeah, the reason we even put this on the agenda is the staff has a different interpretation. Then they do not think it should go to planning at all. So that's why we even put this on the agenda. If we had amended the Muni Code as we had voted on February 4th, we wouldn't even have discussion either. And I think I am okay with this going to none of the commission, and let's just have a council discussion about the item. So Councilmember Fruin and then Vice Mayor Moore.
So just to give everybody some context, in order to find out what the other steps were for the rest of this process in our other jurisdictions that are partnering on this project, I spoke with Ramses Madhu in San Jose today, and we would actually already be the last jurisdiction that would be considering it on our agenda to begin with. So Santa Clara is currently expected to receive a study session with a resolution attached to it at their May 27th meeting. At VTA, it went to the TAC today. It's supposed to go to the VTA board in May. at the county. The county may be seeing the item before the board on the same date that we would, June the 3rd, presumably earlier in the day. It goes to the Roads Commission on May the 12th. We obviously don't have a Roads Commission. I'll also note that some of this was really prompted by the same email that we all got, because I was thoroughly confused when I saw the assertion that the San Jose Planning Commission had at some point reviewed the Race Street and Parkmore Avenue safety improvements or the bicycle lane installation project. Now, I watch every single meeting of the Planning Commission in my day job, and that has never come up. I thought it was maybe just a fluke, so I spoke with a colleague of mine from Mountain View to ask about the El Camino Real mobility improvements and Highway 101 interchange enhancement project, and he confirmed that, first of all, Mountain View does not have a planning commission. It has an environmental planning commission, and at no time did it ever review any of these projects or anything like them. So I just want to make sure that that's clear out there, that this seems to be more than one simple error that I could have easily dismissed the beginning for. I agree with Vice Mayor Moore that we've spent an inordinate amount of time on this already. It probably could have been addressed at each commission in the amount of time that we've already spent on it. And I would be, frankly, at this point, happy to see more public engagement on it rather than less, especially given the overlap between land use planning and transportation in general.
Councilmember Mohan, and then Vice Mayor.
I had concerns about this when I first read the report, and I actually consulted with our interim city attorney. I know the staff report talks about the Planning Commission could, in quotes, perform other functions as the City Council provides, including conducting studies, preparing plans, other than those required or authorized by state law. And I thought that was a very sort of broad and expansive description, which could just about include everything that everyone does. I think the city attorney agreed with me. I'll let you speak for yourself, of course. But I also wanted to make sure that there was some guardrails in moving responsibilities from one commission to another. We all have every commission has specific responsibilities, and just to move a responsibility from one commission to another without understanding it and just going by some fairly not so clear description I thought was arbitrary and capricious and not fair to commissioners and commissions which signed up to give off their time, their effort, their expertise, and then have it just moved to another commission. I didn't think that was the appropriate way to handle commissions, handle commissioners. And I understand that there's a mobility element included in the Stevens Creek Vision Project, and I'm sure we can make it fit into the Planning Commission if need be. So having said that, I would be in agreement with having both the commissions review it.
So Vice Mayor Moore and then Councilmember Wong.
Okay, so I wasn't clear if Councilmember Fruin was saying that it went to the TAC today. It went to the Technical Advisory Committee last week on the 9th. And they put it on consent, and no one pulled it off of consent to discuss it. And when it was at the VTA Policy Advisory Committee, I had first, during the day, tried to get it postponed so that it could come to our council and I would have direction. Not having direction, I elected to abstain from the item and had my objections noted about that because the council has not approved that we are interested in an elevated guideway for $1.75 billion or light rail. The one thing the city had asked for was that grade separated would mean undergrounding, and undergrounding increases the cost by over $1 billion. It's hugely expensive. Now, we have invested heavily in protected bike lanes. We have beautiful medians. We have trees in our center medians in Cupertino. We've done a beautiful job. We've invested a lot of tax dollars here for that corridor. My concern with this particular project and this ongoing committee that they've had is that they are operating in a vacuum and not going to VTA and asking more holistically, where do we need to be investing our money? Because if you drive around, you will see that Stevens Creek Boulevard is not this squeaky wheel that needs to have over $1 billion invested to improve it. You'll find there's much worse traffic on Lawrence Expressway, for instance, with people moving north-south trying to get to work there than what you see on Stevens Creek Boulevard. Further, we've also have an expanding project with Santa Clara, which is our SV Hopper, which covers the last mile, as I've said, and our largest employer, Apple, has a very large private transit company, if you will, that they are running in order to provide the TDM for their own employees, which is why they're underparked, and then we required them to provide that. So we are already on our own doing so much. I'm not sure that we should continue coordinating until the cities next door work out what they're going to be doing with their on-street parking and their other development needs. That we're just in a really different position than they are. Thank you.
Councilmember Wong.
Vice Mayor Moore, would you entertain not putting this into any commission?
I would still like to see the Bike Ped Commission go through it, read what's in there and what the city's already been doing, acknowledge what we've been doing in order to protect the bicyclists along Stevens Creek Boulevard, and in signal timing improvements, and perhaps even mention De Anza, since we've just striped there. And I would like to hear what the Planning Commission has to say. I think one of the planning commissioners is on the Citizens Advisory Commission, and already has gotten a chance to look at this plan as well. So I would like to hear, and not just be the single voice saying I have an issue with it, but I'd like to hear what other people have to say.
Okay, and would you be okay with this going on to the transit projects and transportation projects going to planning in the future?
Absolutely. Well, on the Planning Commission, you have to be able to go through those CEQA documents, which talk about the vehicle miles traveled and the transportation impacts. So to me, it makes perfect sense. And you have to go through the general plan. You have the mobility element. These would be capital improvements. The Planning Commission also looks at the capital improvement projects for their consistency with the general plan. Yeah, to me, it all makes perfect sense that they would be looking at transportation.
Okay. I'm happy to support Council Member Fruin's point that we spent more time on this than we should, and as well as Council Member Moore's. I would suggest we go to both commissions, but I would also say that this should never go back to BP, the Bike Ped Commission, again, because it's a transit unless we want input from the Bike Ped Commission. I also want to clarify some things in Mountain View for folks that might be confused. Environmental Planning Commission is really the Planning Commission. They just stuck an adjective in front of it to include environment in the planning. And also they have a Bike Ped Advisory Committee, and if you study the agendas, I think you'll come to the same conclusion that many people have before. So I'll leave it at that.
Do we have a motion?
We do. I thought we had a motion, right?
So we have a motion.
We can call a question.
Go to both commission right now.
Yeah, we can call the question and then deal with it for this specific instance.
So right now it goes to both commission. That's the motion.
Can I call a question?
So, yeah, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so next we have the so-called TPD list, but I don't know, it doesn't have the name this time. So this is a list of items council members, I think including mayors, proposed for consideration. And when we couldn't agendize them, we get a confirmation from the majority of the council. So I have made some suggestions to clarify what the council has adopted with motion on February 4th in attachment A, and then also add a column to clarify what the council had adopted for a specific item. And thank you, the staff, for providing modified attachment A and attachment B in the supplemental report. So just in case the public doesn't know that, so yeah. And do we have a staff presentation?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Tina Kapoor, Deputy City Manager. We don't have a presentation, as you mentioned, Mayor, so there is an updated staff report and updated two of the updated attachments. So we're looking for council direction on items 14 through 19. And the other recommended action is for council to review the agenda items list and adopt the staff recommendation for items 1 through 13, and then item 20. And we're here for questions. I just wanted to add to that, like there was a question about what the TBD list or future agenda items. So, as we recall, TBD list was introduced as a supplemental to work programs, right? The work programs do take priorities, but there are items that come up. So the TBD list is a way for us to provide accountability and status updates on items that get added as agenda items, perhaps, or other ways to track them. But work program still takes priority. And TBD list items, although is part of the baseline work for staff, we don't have dedicated resources, so we try our best to accomplish them and bring status updates to you on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for thank you for the effort to make these two tables and then making the columns to make it clear. But there is one correction that in modified attachment A, item 15, for transportation project added to planning, I think you included under the motion is the specific language used in the motion, which is great. But then in the modified attachment B, that language should have been, so that item become item 16 in the modified attachment B. So that language should be the language from that motion. That's, and then the council approval column, date council approved column should be February 4th. That's, but I know it's very confusing. Thank you for all the effort to sort it out. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll add that list, that date on the date council approved column for that item.
Yeah, and then the description should be the one from the council motion. Thank you.
Point of inquiry, just to the attorney or city clerk. If we just approve all these and have two council votes on 1 through 18, they just get onto the agenda. Would that be correct? Like, we don't have to go through this whole motion.
The difficult thing to be approving 1 through 18 to be on which agenda?
Oh, so it's a timing issue that we're looking at here?
It's really up to the council if it's a timing issue, but if you are planning on identifying when you'd like to see it come back, we really do need to look at them independently and, consider the impact on staff, et cetera.
Okay, got it.
I do have a motion. No, I think we need a public comment. So if we have no questions.
I'd also just like to note that it's 10:30.
Oh, so is it okay to continue?
I can give you 15.
You need to leave. Okay. We can continue this item to the next meeting. But we still need public comment on this, so Should we, the council member one need to leave it. He needs to catch a plane tonight, so I don't think we have enough time. So
Are there any members of the public?
Are there any members of public with comment here?
I mean, should we continue the item? This is a question now. Should we continue to the next meeting? Then we don't hear public comment today. Yeah.
I think if there's public waiting, we should probably hear the public comments today.
I agree with that. It would be good to know if there are commenters.
And then we can discuss it later. The next.
Okay. So, do we have any public comment?
Yes, Mayor, we have 2 requests to speak from Community Hall, Jennifer Griffin and Peggy Griffin. I see no requests virtually.
Okay. So please be quick.
Thank you, City Council. Sorry, I'm just kind of, my mom's had shingles for 2 weeks, and I try to outthink the dear soul, but it's like I am just so exhausted. Anyway, this one, I'm just going to talk about number 18, if that is still the current number, which is, we're calling it the Finch property, which it has had many different names. It used to be called the Annex property next to Sedgwick. This is currently, I think it's a 1 and 1.5 acre parcel that is, I think it's west of Sedgwick Elementary School, and it has a giant redwood tree on it. I've always interested in having the potential to purchase more parkland for Eastern Cupertino. As you are aware, those neighborhoods, Lori oh gosh, I can't even remember where I live, Rancho Rinconada and the Eichler community and some of the others are horribly underparked. We have so little parkland. We have had to fight for the last 20, 30 years to even get a half an acre. I mean, this is the 3rd park that we will have been involved in trying. I understand there is a great deal of money in Cupertino's park dedication fee. I think this is an excellent opportunity to purchase all or part of this piece of land. It is. I have attended all the meetings from CUSD concerning this property, probably for the last 5 years, and I always wondered the whole time we needed to have a park in there. I was at the meeting where they were talking about putting in condos on the property. It is at least 1/4 to half a mile into Rancho Rinconada neighborhood. It's on a dangerous curve. It's by 3 schools. It's not a good place to have extra housing with cars coming out of it. We need parkland there. That redwood tree is 8 feet in diameter. It's over 100 years old. Probably my brother has a redwood on the back of his property in 1893 Victorian in downtown Los Gatos. That tree is the same size and it was planted in 1893. I don't think that redwood would be allowed to be taken down under any circumstances, and I think that Cupertino should purchase the half of the park, of the land that has the redwood tree on it, put in a beautiful park, and have the rest of it stay with CUSD as an annex for the students of Sedgwick, or buy the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next we have Peggy Griffin. Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening. I'll try to make it quick. These are old numbers. I don't think they changed. I'm asking for the staff recommendation said to accept 1 through 13 old numbers. With number 1 through 4, I think, or I would like to see those items moved to the City Hall study in October or November, so that when you talk about City Hall, you talk about what are you going to do with the people while it's happening, what lease versus that kind of stuff. And number 8, a study session for CIP approval process. I think you worked out how projects get on the CIP list, but they don't seem to come like development projects come for a review of design. And I think that's something that needs to happen. Items on 14 onward, I would remove the sound amplification. I like parks, I like peace and quiet, I like open space. I don't like someone making a lot of noise because we have so much. We have a permit process for that. Restore the audit committee, transportation projects, put it under planning, proclamations, agendize it, basically agendize everything and remove number 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Mayor, no additional requests to speak?
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion for one item so we at least get that out of the way. And then I do have some addition. So first motion is item 18 regarding the Finch property. I think we are already trying to put it on agenda item because CUSD would like some answers from us. They are interested in selling. So I would like a motion from the council to confirm that we would like to agendize this. So can...
One second.
Quick question, Mayor. Should that be in closed session?
I think the city attorney is suggesting a closed session. Yeah. Council member Moore, no?
You have a second, so
Okay.
we're looking at 10:38.
Yeah. Okay, so let's vote on this so we have certainty.
Mayor, can I have clarity? Did you close the public comment period? Will you reopen it for the next meeting?
I think I will consider reopen it
Thank you.
So it's not closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
The motion carries unanimously.
And then do I need to make a motion to continue this item, the rest of the list, to the next one? And then I hope the staff would make the correction on item 16, which I mentioned earlier. Yeah. Do we need a motion to
You made the motion.
continue that? Yeah, I made the motion, so second, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and then we don't take on new items. So, no comment. So I think we can adjourn the meeting now, right? Do we?
Everything? Are we missing
Yeah.
some items still?
So we're not voting to continue. Yeah. So we'll adjourn the meeting. Yeah.